on your mic, Mr.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Get on your mic, Nick.
So who we got?
I don't know, it's just us at the moment. I'm waiting for those tranny likers to get in here.
You sound familiar, but your name doesn't look familiar.
Yeah, I'm new. Well, they changed my name to. Oh no, it's back to Janny Liker BDA. That's good.
What was your other name?
Well, his door got deported, and they got my.
Okay,
got
I know. I
muted.
remember you, Dora. I remember you, Dora. Who else we got? Bucho, BDA, and you. I think Frank's going to jump on and try to harass me about Crawford.
The problem is with Crawford, he's not. Nobody's ducking him, but his fanboys give the perception that he's being avoided, but he's pricing himself out. I mean, before the tszyu-Fundora fight, they started doing negotiations, and he was asking for a guarantee of $15 million. Like, he's a big name, but he's not that kind of a draw. He's just not. And
I think he's a little delusional in what he's asking for. If he's asking for 10, I think that's a stretch within reach. But
yeah,
that extra
like
5,
8 to 10 is what I think. I think 8 to 10 he could do for tszyu. And if he's going to go for the vacant WBO title, if Fundora can't fight until fucking the fall, unless Tim gets his immediate rematch, they could always fight for the vacant WBO title for and he can get a guarantee of 8 to 10 million. But his fanboys, that don't even really support him, or these Twitter fans that don't really buy these pay-per-views, are going to sit there and demand that he's worth this kind of money, or a certain amount of money, and say he's being avoided and ducked. Like, dude, tszyu just fought a guy with a 9-inch reach disadvantage and a 9-inch height disadvantage and a 10-inch reach disadvantage. You think he's fucking afraid of Crawford? You're fucking insane. It's delusional. It's just what they want to believe, because they're
All right, okay, hold on, Chief. What I see that in the Discord, or I saw that you were having a disagreement with Frank. What were you guys talking about?
He's always gotten on my case about Crawford, about being a fanboy, and even though I'm one of his biggest supporters on the panel, I still like to be objective to an extent, but I'm also big with my personality, and my persona is innocent until proven guilty. So if you have a stance on something, I just ask him to prove it. And he doesn't ever produce articles to back his statement. And so when he calls him a duck, I'm like, well, who sent him an offer? If no one sent him a financial offer, how's this a duck? If he's, okay, so maybe usually the challenger doesn't send the offer, but when the challenger, in case of Boots, is represented by PBC and Bud's a free agent, why isn't PBC sending him an offer to fight Boots? Did they send him an offer? Because I've never read anything about an financial offer being sent at all. So if one happened, enlighten me, because I've been wrong before. He doesn't do that. So I'm like, well, if you've got no proof, then there's no sign of a duck other than the fact you don't like Terence Crawford. Okay, I have no problem with that. I don't care who you do and don't like.
All right, so there's no evidence that. All right.
Yeah, that's my whole stance. The fact there's no real evidence that there's a duck. He's like, they said, how do you feel about fighting Boots? He said, he brings nothing to the table. Well, if PBC thought they brought something to the table, they'd say, well, here, how about $8 million guaranteed? And he might say, I want 10. But there would at least be an offer to sit out there saying, well, he turned this down. Okay, now you got grounds for a possible duck. But right now, just because he said he didn't want to fight him and no financial offer has been made, so, okay, so where's the duck? He exercised his right to go fight Fundora. Now, according to Dora, he priced himself out. Got that. Maybe he's doing it on purpose. Don't know. But
we'll talk about
Boots
that
never sent. But on the Boots side of him ducking Boots, Boots never sent anything at all to validate this quote unquote duck. He wasn't interested in fighting him. Okay, what did they do to
Boots
make it?
Was the one that turned that down. Crawford never ducked Boots. I agree with that. I don't believe that happened. Now I was going to say, Bucho, did you hear about the negotiations? They were going to assume tszyu would win, and he got that freak accident right in the fight. But there was being reported that Crawford was asking for a guarantee of $15 million, and I'm like, no, the PBC is not going to give him that kind of money. He's just not worth that kind of money. You know what I mean? So did you hear about that? And then his fanboys started saying tszyu was ducking Crawford. It's not actually Crawford that really gets me. Crawford's fine, even though his resume is still a bit overrated and shit. And I still think overall he's a little bit of an overrated fighter. It's his fanboys that lie for him. That just makes me mad.
Fanboys. All right, so we got Frank here, so we can get this party started, I guess. All right,
yo,
Frank,
can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear, sir.
Oh no, I don't. This guy Chief, he's very passive aggressive. He said I didn't show any proof. The proof is, you just stuck your head in the sand. He gave up. Couldn't even get to negotiations because they let him strip him. He told him flat out, no, I'm never gonna fight you. You bring nothing to the table. Tell me without even getting to offers or anything. That's how it happens. You just say no, I'm not gonna do it, no matter what. He didn't even let it get that far.
Well, first of all, you've basically just said that I was correct, that no offer was sent, which is exactly what I told you to begin with.
Wait, what did you miss about? They said, hey, what happens when it goes to the mandate?
Sorry, if I was talking, you don't get to say what did I miss if I didn't even get to finish.
No,
but
because
go ahead and
over your head.
Go ahead and do it.
It clearly went over your head. I'm speaking. IBS, I guess IBS got the story, and they said you guys need to negotiate.
I had the floor, and you talked.
No, but that clearly went over your head. How do you miss the part where it didn't even get that far? He said flat out no, and he let them strip him before saying in good faith.
So now it goes back to if PBC wanted that fight at all, especially if Boots wanted that fight being represented by PBC, they would have sweetened the pot and said, what about for X, Y, or Z amount of dollars with that fight?
He didn't let it get that far. What are you missing about? He said, no, forget it. It didn't even let that get that far. He said, go ahead, take it.
What you're failing to accept is they didn't want it either. Otherwise, they would have sent an offer.
What do you mean? He said no. He said, I don't want that guy. That's what he said. He didn't even let it get that far. He didn't even wait to see offers. He just said flat out no. And what part of that do you not understand? How could they send him an offer if he said, "Hey, this is your guy"? Forget his name, Boots Ennis. Just say he's Harry come lately. He said no. How do you miss that part?
Are you finished?
Well, I don't understand how that goes over your head.
Let Chief reply. Chief
Frank, are you done? Frank, are you done? Frank,
I'm asking, how does that go over your head?
Nothing goes over my head. I know business, and here's the other side of the story. If Boots wanted it as bad as he was pretending, if PBC wanted it as bad as they say they want to promote Boots, they would have come back and said, oh, you don't want to fight him. Well, what about for this? They would have made it tantalizing. Other people have done this in the history of boxing to get a fight made. They haven't done it. No one has sent him something to incentivize that fight. Nobody.
Because he said no. He didn't even let it get that far. It's just like if a girl, before you even ask her on a date, she says, no, I'm not interested, but you didn't let me make an offer. It's like, it didn't even get that far. That he doesn't want to fight the guy. He knows that the fight he could lose. He'd rather fight Canelo for a payday or fight Fundora, who he feels he can beat. He doesn't want to face that guy because it's very dangerous. And it's probably not as lucrative. He didn't even let that get that far. How do we know? Because he's still holding on to all the other belts. If Boots Ennis was not dangerous, he probably would have took easy money and fought him like he did David Avenesian. Like, your head is just in the sand. This guy is a
nobody's going to fight Boots Ennis for the money you're going to get for David Avenesian. Now,
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't even matter. You keep saying your whole argument is, did he get an offer? It's like he didn't even let it get that far. He wouldn't even wait for it to happen. Fight. That's the part you're missing. That's what I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm not missing anything. You're refusing to acknowledge the fact that if they want to make the fight, they will make an offer.
I don't know. You know what? It's clear. It just goes right over your head. He wouldn't even let it get that far.
I've been following boxing longer than you've been alive, and I've seen this before.
I mean, we need to hear what other people think. Yeah. Because you're trying to say, they didn't even make him an offer. What do you mean?
Dora, let's hear Dora. Dora, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think what a lot of people kind of forget is So at one point, Drawn This was like the number 2 rated WBO contender before Crawford unified and beat Spence, and they didn't go down that route. The WBO was willing to mandate the fight if Drawn Ennis wanted it, and he said no. Him and his dad, Boozy or whatever the fuck, they said we're going to go down the IBF route, and yeah,
they were going to go WBA first, and then they went IBF.
Well, no, but it was the WBO. They were the number 2 contender for the WBO.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is you're correct on all this, but they were going WBA
first. Oh, okay.
And they decided to go IBF instead. So
right.
They went 2 other belts.
To the title.
They went 2 other belts that Bud didn't have. So right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, so the whole notion that Crawford's ducking Boots is just there's no validity to it. And I'm not like this Crawford like sympathizer or anything. I think his fans are like really, really cringe because they're trying to say like tszyu and Fundora are ducking him. And I've said multiple times Crawford has acted like a diva after, beating the shit out of Spence. He's like been having offers where he's trying to price himself out against tszyu. And he's shut up, Eric, go. Take that shit. I'm talking to Bucho. And anyways, okay, go. And there were times where right before tszyu fought Fundora and shit, I had told this to Boxing Chief before Bucho came back. There was reports that Crawford was demanding $15 million to fight tszyu as a guarantee, and he's just not worth that kind of money. He'd be worth maybe 8 to 10 as a guarantee. So there have been times where he's acted like a diva, and his fans have tried to, stick up for him and his bullshit and want to act like he's this boogeyman. But in the same breath, he's not a fighter that's avoiding guys like Boots or anything like that.
Well, how do you answer? They just let the IBF strip him without even negotiating.
He had nothing to do at welterweight. He was undisputed champ. He could have fought him a year ago.
Holding on to he has nothing to do. Then why doesn't he just vacate all the belts and officially move up?
He should.
Well, that's the thing. If he's holding on, he's held up the division for a year. If he doesn't have plans to fight at that division, why not just give the belt? Unless it's just to duck this one guy. So I'm gonna hold on to all the belts. But I'm gonna let them take this because this guy.
Frank, I want to know how equal you are in all of this. So I'm going to bring up a history situation, and you tell me if this is also a duck. So you think?
Well, you trying to put shit against the wall and make it stick. Like, let's stick to the subject. Don't bring up willy nillys and Frank.
First of all, I'll bring up whatever I damn well please.
Well, let's stick to what's in front of us. Like, stop trying to.
If you're holding this, if you're holding this standard,
to try to make yourself look better,
I want to know if you hold everybody to that standard.
Well, let's hear what nonsense you want to say. Let's hear the bullshit.
My nonsense. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit because I'm sticking to the subject, and you want to bring up. Well, let me give you a scenario, but let's hear it.
I'm bringing up a historical scenario. All right, are you ready for it? Can you comprehend this?
I don't give a shit what happened in 1908. Like, why the fuck do I care? Like, let's stick to what's happening now.
Well, I'm talking about what you consider.
Let me entertain your bullshit. Let me entertain your bullshit. Go ahead.
Oh, hold on. Let me sit down for a second. I need to go ahead and bask in the ambience of you entertaining something when I'm bringing up a point to know the standard that you're holding things to. This goes to character, which your character, as we've discussed before, varies. Now, as we've said,
do you hear this passive-aggressive nonsense? Just because you make words salad, don't make it sound witty and clever.
I'm right in your face saying it.
You're trying to be witty and clever, but you're not. You sound like a clown. But go ahead.
You've said this before. This is what I've always
loved. Me and Chief are cool.
What I've always loved about you.
He knows boxing. That's why the reason I have a beef with Chief is because he actually knows boxing. I'm going to give him his props. He knows boxing. I know you do. So go ahead, man.
And we've talked offline. So some of this heated stuff is just us talking in the moment. There's no malice between us. So if that actually ruins the show, sorry about that. Anyway, having said this, okay, Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis did not fight Chris Bird and John Ruiz, who are mandatory contenders and earned their shots. He didn't even entertain the idea of being offered a contract and gave up the belts. Did he duck them or not?
You got to say that again. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll say it again. Lennox Lewis, undisputed champion, correct? A lot of people top 10 heavyweight, right? He gave up both the WBA and IBF to not fight or even entertain the idea of a negotiation with Chris Bird and John Ruiz, who both earned their number one shots and called him out. Both of them. Right. Did he duck them or not? Did the great Lennox Lewis duck Chris Bird and John Ruiz?
You're not putting it. I know what you're going to say. Oh, because he fought Tyson or something, or he fought a bigger fight.
No, it has nothing to do with Tyson. It has nothing to do with Tyson.
I don't know the entire situation. Is that a duck? Because they weren't. I mean, we know they were kind of mid fighters. They weren't like these beasts or killers that you had to be afraid of. If that's what you're asking me.
Well, we don't even know if Boots is a killer yet because he hasn't faced anybody grand. So I mean, the one guy he did face, and I'm a big Boots supporter, but the only guy he did face that was ranked and somewhat high of a guy in his own weight class was that Karen dude, and he went the distance with him. Now I'm a
but what's his options at this point? Okay, so he doesn't. What is there a big fight that's on the horizon or something, or what?
No, it's the fact that he's in the body. For me, here's the thing with Crawford. I call him Crawford because I think he's a fraud. I think he'd be one decent fighter. They think he walks on water. He's chasing the Canelo payday. I just think he's a fraud. I think they try to say PBC froze him out because that's how it all happened. Is everybody's throwing a pity party for him because he's going to get frozen out of the Fundora fight, and it's like a lot of people are saying no. That's why Sam Likowitz was on an interview saying Crawford wants too much. He needs to go fight Boots Ennis. And then people are throwing a pity party for him. And I'm saying, no, he has a history of doing this. He re-signed with Bob Arum to, for me, like, fight easy contenders for guaranteed money. That's duck shit. He should have went over there. But you guys want to throw him a pity party again.
Well, no, I don't buy into this thing that there's no reason why the PBC wouldn't have negotiated to make big fights. They did not want to do business with him. It was even apparent when he left Bob and they didn't sign him to a contract, number one. And number two, sent him no offers to Spence after he was a free agent until the fight got forced. Now, who backed it, I don't know. I don't have the facts on that. But I don't believe it was Al that went and got all these sponsors to get the fight going. Somewhere the money came from. So I don't have that knowledge, but it wasn't until the money came about that fight got made because Al didn't have enough to guarantee anybody, either side, what they wanted. But instead of he didn't even let anybody negotiate with Bud until after they let Porter go. They had no more use for Porter. So they said, yep, Porter, you're free. You're a free agent. You can go. They claimed to still be representing him, but I didn't see anybody in PBC in his corner that night. And Bud wiped the floor with him. They never. Danny Garcia was a number one contender and was sent an offer by Carl Moretti, and it was never answered. So this whole thing about his career's mid, I'm not going to argue too much of that. He didn't fight those guys. That is an actual fact because he never fought Danny Garcia. He never fought Keith Thurman. Thurman was kind of on the frozen side of his career by the time Bud got there. But of all the fighters that were there at the time, yes, he did not get those fights. However, signing with Bob Arum is not an excuse on saying he ducked them. That I don't even buy that for a second. PBC did not want to do business with Bud, with Bob Arum or without Bob Arum.
All right, guys. First of all, a super chat from Sursayer. Thank you for your super chat, Sursayer. He says, feels good to be in the Pitbull era, the era of the Aztec people, the master race of Aslan. All right. Somebody's jumping on the Pitbull hype train here. Somebody also mentioned an interesting comment about, I think the Quacks says, this is where the Spence fanboys jumped ship to Boots. Is the man to beat the and then you can. It's true, though. I think that's true. There are a lot of Spence fans are going to Boots. But anyways, go ahead, guys.
Well, yeah, they were Mayweather fans before that.
I'm not a Spence fanboy. I mean, I think the guy was overrated, and that's here's my like I said from the beginning. My whole thing is I don't think that this guy doesn't walk on water. I think he's okay. I mean, obviously he has skills, he's decent, but his whole career's been a dud. That's my thing. His whole career's been a dud. I don't buy what the Chief likes to argue that he didn't make an offer. I think it's possible he could have went over there. He chose to resign, and that's fine if Chief wants to believe that. But the fact that it's happening again and he's being a diva again, there's one common denominator. It's this guy's fault. Everybody knows that. He killed the first fight with Spence. That's why it took a year and a half because he wanted to go to BLK Prime. He was like, oh, Spence, I can get you $50 million. This guy is delusional. The Tszyu.
All right, so let's move on. First, let's move. Yeah, go ahead, Chief. Go ahead.
Well, the facts of that were the fact they were going through and negotiating of zero guarantees and only back-end money. But Bud, being a free agent, was like, I want to see the book so I know what I'm entitled to, and Al said no. That's what made that fight fall apart. That's not being a diva. That's called being smart. You're representing yourself. Because otherwise, the guy's going to write you a check for whatever he wants to, and you're going to be without. And so that's why that fight fell apart. He had no guaranteed money, zero. He was promised a percentage, and Bud said, a percentage of what? I want to see the books, and Al said no. And that's why that fell apart. That wasn't him holding out for more money. That was literally the fact that Al was being sus with what he was offering. He said he was saying you can have a percentage. But a percentage of what? A percentage of zero is zero. So if I don't know what I'm getting, you can give me whatever you want to. How do I know if I'm getting my cut? That's why.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, look, man, all that. I mean, people have.
But that's factual. That's not opinion. That's factual.
He ended up getting the money. Okay. Look, he ended up getting the money. But the whole thing about it is him being a diva. The reason PBC was pissed off is because he left to go fight David Avanesian.
But how was that being a diva guaranteeing your money?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. There's two sides of the story, right? There's
the real side is the fact that he the book.
Well, no, you want to believe Bud Crawford's side, then go ahead and believe it. I think it's somewhere in the middle, that it's both. They were trying to play hardball. He was being a diva.
That's the reason why it fell apart. Multiple people reported that.
Oh, we're going to move on a little bit here. First of all, guys in the chat, if you want to jump in and have a debate, let me know on Discord so I can send you the link. This is not open lines, so we can keep it so there's some control and not too chaotic.
Yeah,
all right, guys. Now, Frank, I heard you say that you're questioning, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're questioning Terence Crawford's legacy? Are you saying he's overrated?
That's great. Yeah, I think he'd be one decent guy in his whole career.
All right, let's debate that. Chief, what do you think about that, though?
Well, the way to look at that is in context of when he beat them. He exposed Gamboa as being not a real lightweight, but he knocked Gamboa out, and nobody else was doing that. He put a halt to Gamboa and actually sent him back down to 130. Who was undefeated and on the lower half at the time, if memory serves. He might have faded off of that list, but he was there at one point in time. Nobody else has beat Mean Machine quite the way he has, although he had a decent Virgil Ortiz had a very decent time against him. No one's had an easy time with Postal at all, an undefeated world champion. He's been undisputed in 2 weight divisions in the 3-belt era, the 3 and 4 belt era. Only a handful of people have done that. That's Evander Holyfield, Terence Crawford, and Inoue. Nobody else has done that. So the marks he's got on his career are that most other people don't have. To say he's overrated because he didn't fight a bunch of guys in the PBC who are all fighting each other.
No, I wouldn't say most people say overrated.
Well, see, that's what I was going to address. His whole legacy, quotes is excused because he was frozen out. See how that works? It's very convenient. And now, they're freezing me out again. It's like he has these convenient. So he's going to fight Josh Kelly, another bum, for a WBO title, and say, they're freezing me out. You see how this trend continues? You see, remember he was chasing Manny Pacquiao. Like, this is that guy's legacy. Chasing Manny Pacquiao, I was frozen out, even though you re-signed with Arum. You could believe Chief, but he re-signed. That's on him.
Well, that's Frankie's biggest wins.
Frank, you still have an extra... Go ahead, Dora.
I was going to say, Crawford turned down a career-high payday against Pacquiao. But when it comes to Crawford's resume of whether it's overrated or not, the thing is, his second best win is Ricky Burns, who was 3-8 world champ. But he had a losing record against world champions. He was kind of like a guy that would, fight the weakest guy in the division, maybe collect a belt. He wasn't like a dominant champ. Maybe at lightweight, at one point he was. I think he might have been lineal. But Ricky Burns is a decent fighter. He might make the Hall of Fame. Spence might make the Hall of Fame. But he hasn't beaten any elite, legitimate, top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. And even if you want to argue Gamboa was that at one point, maybe he was. I'll have to go look at the Ring Magazine rankings. He was almost getting pinned at featherweight multiple times. He was very chinny. And Crawford's fucking 2 or 3 weight classes bigger than that guy. How much credit are we going to give a guy who was a weight bully at lightweight, by the way, who almost got chinned by featherweight? Come on. So Crawford's obviously great, but he doesn't have any, marquee Hall of Fame kind of wins where you're he doesn't have any maybe Spence. I just don't think Spence can be labeled as an all-time great win because I don't think Spence was ever pound for pound fighter. He was a good fighter. He was never elite. And it's not Crawford's fault. He just fought in weak era. Postall, and Dongo. These guys aren't fucking elite world beaters. These guys were fucking pretty weak title holders. Postall had a good fight with Ramirez, but he wasn't fighting.
Is he an all-time great welterweight?
Huh?
Is he an all-time great welterweight?
I would
Sugar Ray Leonard.
I would say, I'll get to that. I think you can compare him just based off of eye test to a Leonard, a Miguel Cotto, Margarito, Pacquiao, Floyd, Prime Mosley, Prime De La Hoya, fucking Tito Trinidad, all those guys, right? I think he has a chance against them, but to favor him over most of those guys, I wouldn't favor him over most of them.
I agree.
And I wouldn't argue that. I really wouldn't. I mean, welterweight's my favorite division. My favorite welterweight is.
Yeah, it's just been so weak for so long. That's my argument against Crawford's career. Is the welterweight division not only was without question the most overrated division, but arguably one of the worst divisions in the sport in the last 5 or 10 years. And yeah, there just hasn't been killers there. You know, he didn't beat a guy like a Teofimo at 140 or prime Josh Taylor at 140, anything like that. It's just he didn't have those kind of wins on his resume. He didn't beat a prime Linares, who was on a
the welterweight division since 2015 wasn't impressive at all. I mean, who did you have? Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, who never did anything at welterweight, by the way. He was considered a top welterweight for the longest of times, but think about it, that guy didn't accomplish anything. He was a 140-pounder.
Let's put a few things in perspective. Okay, so you said he didn't beat it. Spence was in the top 5 and most people's pound for pound list. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that either. And like I'm sure Frank doesn't, and I won't argue that.
Like that's just American trash media overrating the welterweight division. Nobody that knows boxing seriously had Spence on their top 5 pound for pound list. Most people didn't even have. Most people on this panel and most people that watch BDA didn't even have him on their top 10 pound for pound list before the Crawford fight. If so, maybe he was at number 10 or something like that.
I don't remember where I had him. I had him on the list mostly because of the lack of options when you started to look at what people were accomplishing, because everybody across the world, because remember 2020 had a lot to do with this, of people not fighting maybe once a year, if that. Now some people have picked up since then, but everything had slowed down so much. Plus, like we are all saying, the welterweight division had faded to the point to where you had a faded Sean Porter, you had a faded Ugas, you had a part-time Keith Thurman, you had a Danny Garcia. And this is all the stuff I said when it came down to Spence's career. Now, the fact that, and Frank's got a point here when it comes to Bud's career, that's his marquee fight of his accomplishment, is Spence, who we're all going to agree was overrated. My part of that is the fact that I had picked him to beat him when everyone else thought it was he had no chance. I knew he could beat him because I knew he was better than him. Now, he's got the skill set at welterweight to give any welterweight a tough fight. That doesn't mean I think he beats any of them. But I know he can give most of them. The smaller ones that moved up from the lighter weights. Pacquiao, guys like that, he gives them a strong run for their money and might even beat some of them. I'm not going to make a particular pick of how I see what he does against each of them, but those are the ones he has the best odds against. He fights Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, guys like that. I wouldn't even give him a chance I could give him a chance going the distance, but if it's a 12-round fight, it'll easily be 8-4 to the aforementioned guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, in the chat, Roy Dixon says Crawford would have destroyed Linares, Teofimo Lopez, and Josh Taylor, though.
Well, we'll never know.
This is the problem. He never did fight any of these guys. That's the thing. We'll never know. So we can only judge his career based on what he actually accomplished. And that's the problem.
When people talk about how he's a 3-weight lineal champ, do you know how he got his lineal Ring Magazine title lightweight? By beating Ray Beltran, who wasn't even a champion at the time. Ray Beltran went on to win a title and then eventually get knocked out by Comey or whatever.
Tell me how he unified 140.
Yeah, but unified against no-hopers. These guys they weren't pound-for-pound fighters. They weren't Hall of Famers. They weren't former Ring Magazine lineal champions. They weren't undisputed. Forget the undisputed 4-belt bullshit. These guys just weren't elite. They just weren't not elite guys. I mean, Postal's best
Postal was the only one I think it was a good win at 140. Postal, and then Ndongo. I mean, what happened to Ndongo after he lost to Crawford?
That's trash, dude. That's trash.
So there's one or two ways to take Ndongo depending on how you're trying to make your case of who he was. He was never that good, or he peaked just before Crawford and Crawford exposed him. But he was an undefeated 2-belt champion. Now, a watered-down boxing, you don't have to preach that to me. I understand. But how come more people don't have fighters of that resume on their record of undefeated 2-belt champion?
140 was one of the weakest divisions at the time. The thing
but not many people have that on their record, period, in boxing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's an accomplishment. You can't deny that. But it's not. It doesn't seem like it's an accomplishment that's taking him to the next level.
His accomplishments are better than his resume, if that makes sense. Like when he was competing at 140, he was one of the weakest divisions in the sport, without question. And at 147, you have a lot of the BLM, channels and shit talk about how there's an all-time great welterweight era when it was never that. And we were saying for years that the welterweight division was extremely overrated and very weak compared to the all-time greats that we had mentioned previously. So he just fought in very, very weak eras. He never fought prime Hall of Famers, anything like that.
Not his fault, but it is what it is.
It's not his fault, but we have to be honest and say, well, we can't deem him as this guy that would fucking conquer Sugar Ray Leonard, De La Hoya, Pacquiao, Floyd, Tito, all these guys.
The fact that he destroyed Spence, for some people, it put Crawford in this other level where now he can, he's up there with Leonard and all of these guys.
No, he's
but
not.
It's not true. But Spence, but that's the thing, because Spence was, in my opinion, he was overrated, and we've said it on this show. Like we said it multiple times. So come on, man. Like, I'm sorry, man. I never even had him in my number one pound for pound list. Never.
Yeah, Crawford's not my number one pound for pound.
I'm gonna give Crawford and Chief his point about you can only beat in front of you, right? Like, at the end of the day, you can only beat the champions that are the champions. That's it. Like Cambosos, when Canelo made his run, okay, Crawford made his run. I'm just not going to give him that his legacy was hurt by PBC. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not. I think he could have made, the reason I know this because he's so inactive. He's had 4 fights in 5 years. If he was really serious, he would have just went on a run and said, fuck it, I'm just going to fight 3-4 times a year and really go chase this legacy, if that's what you're about. But if you fought 4 times in 5 years, and then after your biggest win, you're going to sit for a year and a half again? Like, no.
Wait, didn't he resign with Bob Arum at some point?
Yeah. Yes. But Chief wants to,
why?
Throw layers upon layers to make him look better. And even if that's the case, it's happening.
It's about that. What does signing with Bob Arum have to do with a duck? Because it's happening again. Chief.
Well, hold on. But at the same time, he probably obviously offered him more money, right? He offered him more money, and we can't blame Crawford for taking that offer, right? I mean, if they're paying him more, if Bob Arum's offering him more money, he's gonna take it.
But no, it's happening again, though. It's happening again with him being frozen out of this Spence, Fundora, and Tim Tszyu situation. Tim Tszyu's camp has made it known they spoke with Terence Crawford about a deal, and he priced himself out. It's known. It's out there. It happened again. This guy, he wants to be this diva. I'm a free agent. I'm a boss. I can do what I want. But he's not fighting. Nobody wants to pay him the money he wants. So I'm not going to give him this credit. So if it's happening again, then to me, it's his fault. And I'm going to blame him for the other past missed out on his legacy. That's my thing.
The two are not exclusively mutual. It doesn't work. That's literally not the way it works. What he's doing now has nothing to do with resigning to a guy that offered him more money. Because if I remember correctly, when he was a free agent, PBC again didn't offer him anything. And then when he left Bob Arum, after that, they still didn't offer him anything. And when he was with Bob Arum and Danny Garcia, who was his number one contender, was sent an offer, it was never answered. So the fact that they literally did freeze him out and you don't want to acknowledge it, I could care less that you don't want to believe history, how it happened. I don't care. What you're talking about now versus what I said about then, which is factually true, and you don't want to acknowledge it, got nothing for you, dude.
But even if that is true, it's happening again. So that tells you this guy's mindset where he's at.
It's a different scenario.
He doesn't want to fight this tennis. You're just going to have to face that. He doesn't want to fight that guy. Whether you say that's just how it ends with this guy. He's ducking his top competition, which is Boots Ennis. He priced himself out of Tim Tszyu. Like, when are you going to wake up? It's this guy's fault. Like, you want to but back in his legacy's tainted because PBC. Look, okay, but if it's happening again with this guy, what more do you need to see? That it's his own damn fault.
Because
I agree with both you guys on that. Before you go, Chief, I do think the PBC in a sense did try and freeze Crawford out at 47, for years. But now, being in the driver's seat, he's a big enough name to where if he's not asking for money that is delusional, he could get these fights. He doesn't even have to necessarily fight Tim Tszyu right away. He could fight Israel Madrimov, an undefeated fighter in his prime for a title. He could go to Eddie Hearn, say, here, I'll take a guarantee of $7 or $8 million, and the fight would be set right away. But if he's asking for $15 or $20 million, he's not going to get the fight because he's not worth that kind of money. It's at the point now where Crawford believes he's more than what he's worth. And I don't even know if the hedge fund that sponsored that fight between Spence and Crawford even made money, because I think they both got guarantees of like $25 million, which is in and around and not as much as what Canelo and Triple G made, but close. and their pay-per-views only did 600,000. Canelo Triple G did 1.3 million, and Crawford Spence almost got, I think, almost the same amount of guarantee as those guys. Though obviously their pay-per-view rate wasn't as high, but I don't even know if the people that invested in that fight even made money. And now Crawford's demanding 15, 20 million for a fight that's not marinated as big, a fight that's doesn't have that kind of hype or magnitude. It's delusional. He's just asking for way too much money. He's just draining whatever's left of his career because he's already 36, right? So
36 going on 37, yeah. I mean, these parts of the argument, I don't have as much to go off of because, one, I'm not following, and two, it's a different scenario. It's not the same thing. Being a free agent and outpricing yourself on today of what's going on in this situation isn't the same thing what happened before. It's just not. And Dora, you're correct. When I actually bring up the fact that a contract was sent to a PBC fighter when he's with Bob Arum and they didn't answer the offer or even make a counter offer, shows the fact they didn't want to do business with him. And that's a key part of this whole argument between Frank and I. Is that Frank thinks that this end product of where we're at now is the way it's been the whole time. That's factually not true. I mean, it's not even a debate. It's actually not true. Your opinion is that it's the same thing, but that's your opinion. The
it's
fact
clear for anyone to see. No, it's not
all.
an opinion that he dug Boots in. It's not an opinion. He just gave the belt up.
That's also an opinion.
But dude, Boots could have fought Crawford for the
That's where we're at an impasse,
right?
And that's where your head is in the sand. If he holds on to the belt,
Dora even validated earlier. I'll let you finish.
They didn't make the offer. And you just can't see this guy as a diva dug.
They were going to make Boots versus Crawford on BLM Prime. Boots did not want to go the WBO route. You understand? When the fight negotiations fell through with Spence and Crawford after Crawford left Top Rank, they wanted to make the Boots fight.
Look, man, a phone call don't make a fight.
But they didn't make the fight because Boots did not want it. Him and his dad did not want that fight.
Who knows? Do you know for sure that that's what happened? I mean, people lie.
They were number two. They're number two contender to the WBO. They went a different route. They went through the IBF. Yes, that is exactly what happened. They turned down the fight. They could have. The WBO said they could have mandated the fight, and he would have been the mandatory challenger to Crawford's title, and they didn't go that way. So that's why they had to fight Avanesian, or Crawford had to fight Avanesian.
Well, fast forward, he lets them strip his belt. To me, that's a duck. Like, you let them strip the belt, you keep the other belts. That's a duck. It's plain and simple.
But he's not going to fight at welterweight again. It's pretty obvious he's going to get stripped of all his titles.
If the same thing happened to Canelo, because that's one of the arguments. If they said, oh, we're going to mandate and we're going to force Canelo to fight Benavidez, and he throws his belt in the trash, I'm going to say, damn, that's clear as day as a duck. You just threw up the belt, but you want to keep the other ones, and then you're not fighting on top of that. Like, it's everything combined, and you have to include the past. If you did something before, and then that taints your legacy, but then you're doing it again, that to me tells me everything I need to know about you as a fighter.
What did he do before? What did he do before the same cheerleader?
I'm not this Crawford cheerleader. He's never ducked a fighter.
You excuse his mediocre resume by saying PBC froze him out. That's your biggest.
No, but they actually did.
But they did freeze him out. That's what you're not understanding.
Fine. But if it's happening again,
now that you've acknowledged the fact, you've automatically lost that part of the debate. You just acknowledged the fact that you were wrong.
No, I said even if I give you that point, I'm not giving it to you.
Yes, and fine. You acknowledged the fact you were wrong.
I said even if I give you that point, and he does it again, to me that it makes you even look worse. Like you're trying to make both situations 3 years ago. My argument is based on what happened today. No, like I said, it's clear as day. Your argument is what happened.
They froze him out, and that's literally true.
What does it have to do with him giving up, letting them strip him?
All right, guys, let's move on, man. Let's talk about something that's not Crawford.
Yeah, let's talk about something. I'll talk about Walter's fight. Yo, Bucho, did you watch that Walter's fight or no?
No.
You look pretty good. Those ring girls, like, I don't know what the fuck they were, when their asses were hanging out and shit. I didn't know if BDA's old much. Check that out. But, yeah, it was a good fight. Walters looked good. He could fight, Crip Schofield or, maybe Keyshawn Davis, something like that. I can't believe that fucking Shablak is going to go fight fucking Hardatunian or whatever instead of Raymond Morataya. Like, that's such a joke. So I guess Morataya versus Keyshawn Davis makes the most sense. Hopefully Zepeda can get the winner of Tank, Frank Martin. I mean, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Shakur's crying about how Benavidez and Loma might unify. Yet he's going to go fight fucking a guy who's not even rated in the top 10 in the division. It's a joke when he could be fighting Morataya. That's just typical, BLM cap. So that's all I had to say about that. And Santion's coming back. Did you know that? He's going to fight a pretty good fighter. I forgot his fucking name. but he's like young, up and comer. He's got decent power. But Santiano buck break him, but it's going to be a good fight. So maybe Santiano.
Okay, so are we debating that, or are we giving these Europeans? So what's happening here?
Oh, what Shakur?
We need to debate. We need something controversial, guys. Man, something fucking crazy.
The Ryan Garcia has a chance. I think Ryan has a chance. I'll take all the beating.
Really?
I think he's just trolling. I think he's playing head games, and I think he has a chance. I can't stand how everybody overrates this guy, Hanky. He's not that good. That's my whole point. He's not that good. He's not.
Here's where Frank's got a point. Ryan's got tools that can help him win. I'm going to take it, and sorry to do this to you, Frank. I got to do a little bit of a history story to try and do this. If I can remember the name, Donaire at 122 had every last thing he needed to do to beat Rigondeaux, but he couldn't put it all together at one time to do it. That's the problem. He was fast enough because he hit him. He could cut the ring off. He did it all night. He had the power. He knocked him down, but he couldn't do all three of those things at the same time at 122 like he could at 118 and below. Ryan's fast enough. He's got the power. He's got the range. He's got the length. He's got everything he needs. I don't think he's got the mentality and the know-how to do it, number one, nor do I know if he has the ability to do it at 140. He looked like a more dynamic fighter as a prospect / low-level contender at 135. I'm not sold on what he is at 140. That's the reason why I don't think he can do it. It's not the fact he doesn't have everything he needs to get it done. I don't think he's got the mental makeup as well as to be able to do everything as well as he did when he was comfortably making 135. I think he's at a good weight that he needs to be at physically, but I just don't think he can do the same things at that weight.
Yeah, Ryan will get outboxed in a boring fight. We shouldn't even talk about that. The fight's trash. Like, it's like just gonna be a boring mismatch. You know what I mean?
Any trash in Europe. I feel like these boxers that like Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, they're getting a lot of attention, but they're not actually helping boxing. Nobody gives a shit about Devin Haney. Who's like, oh my god, I can't wait for Devin Haney's next fight. The fact that he has to fight Ryan Garcia to get some fucking attention tells you everything.
Yeah,
and the fight's not selling. Ryan
will carry it a little bit. But you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about Teofimo Lopez because after beating Josh Taylor, he looked like shit against Jermaine Ortiz. And even though Jermaine Ortiz fought like a fucking retard and a pussy, I thought he won the fight, to be honest. I know you're not really going to win a title in Vegas fighting like that with Teo, and shit like that being the A side. But he looked like shit against Ortiz. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. He's fighting this like no-hoper now in Miami. And I get it. They're setting up the same dates close to Matias because I guess they're going to unify. And I'm going to tell you now, Teo going to knock Matias out. Everyone keeps talking about Matias going to walk him down, dog walk him. Matias doesn't like to come in with his jab. He's going to stick his face out at him. Mark my words, Teo's going to knock him out as the underdog. I'm going to put money on that fight. I'm going to get hyped.
Well, you said Matias going to...
So Matias is going to fight Paro, right, in July. So that's why... Yeah, Teo's going to fight in July. I just wish it was against maybe a guy like Sandor Martin. I know Gary Antoine Russell's been AFK a little bit, and he hasn't been fighting a lot. It'd be cool if, maybe they had offered him. I don't know. Maybe they did behind the scenes and we don't know. But why not fight a guy like maybe Sandor Martin and try and unless Sandor Martin just waiting for Haney. That could be a case too. But if not, if he was willing to take a Teo rematch, why not rewrite that wrong? Because I don't think Sandor Martin beat Teo, by the way, though I do think Jermaine did. A lot of people are saying Teo got schooled and all this stupid shit in that fight. And you could have wrote that wrong by beating him and maybe even knocking him out. And Sandor Martin's a very strong, high-level European-level fighter. Like, he's not some UK domestic level bum. Like, this guy's a legit good fighter, but he's fighting some bum no-hoper. But as long as he sets up the unification with Matias in November or December, I guess I can get away with it. But he's got to pick up his jab, man. He's got great athleticism, great feet. Sometimes he loops his punches too damn much. And I think Matias' style is just, he's going to get picked apart by Teo. But against a guy like Haney,
going back to Teofimo Lopez, the questions are back though. The questions of how good is he actually? You know what I mean? And when he beat Josh Taylor, it seems like he was back and he was showing the world that he's a top pound for pound, like even top 5 pound for pound.
Yeah.
But after that performance in his last fight, he's back to that that boxer that has a lot of.
That's what makes him exciting, though. That's what makes his career so fun to watch because he just. People are going to be doubting him when he fights Matias, and he's going to knock Matias out.
The fight wasn't fun to watch, though. His last fight wasn't fun to watch.
No, but just like his character of like people don't know how good he is. Like, he's kind of like a hot and cold fighter, I think he has certain styles where you have to fight when he has to fight people on the back foot, the Crip style, because he's a natural counter puncher. He struggles. I think Teo's biggest problem is he doesn't have a consistent jab, and that really gives him trouble in the center of the ring.
Here's because he wins, but it's not like in this amazing fashion you would expect him to. Just like Corrales didn't blow Robert Garcia out of the water like people were expecting. He did in the middle rounds, but the early rounds he was getting cooked. And then ever since then, for Corrales, every fight was hot and cold. Good performance, bad performance. It was almost literally every other performance. You're getting to Teo, so he beats Loma, and what was an entertaining fight, but it wasn't like he dominated Loma. It was he beat Loma. He came out on top.
Yeah, I think he caught lightning in a bottle, to be honest, in that fight too. But he's still a great fighter.
So then after that, he craps the bed again. And what was actually an entertaining fight against Kambosos, but most people are on the same page that there's nothing special about Kambosos. So that's the guy you lost to. He was having trouble making weight. Oh, like somebody else. Oh yeah, Corrales against Mayweather. Moving on. Then he moves up to 140. He has some, nondescript fights of just staying busy. Then he puts on a good performance against Josh Taylor. And like you said, it looks like he should have lost his last fight. He's hot and cold throughout his career. He has nothing consistent about him being a great fighter. And he needs more. And you're alluding to part of the reason why. If he's a natural counterpuncher and these guys are fighting off the back foot, it's going to make it difficult for him. He doesn't naturally cut the ring off. He doesn't naturally use it to walk people down. And since he doesn't do that, that makes him look bad in these fights that he may win, whether they're controversial or he's unimpressive. Either way. You know what I mean? So, but then when it gets a guy against Matias, he could very well shine very brightly because that guy's his entire skill set fits perfectly for what Teo wants.
Matias has, like I said, even though he was able to walk down Ergashev in the first 2 rounds of that fight, he was going in with no jab. He wasn't picking up his jab or anything. And Matias doesn't have lightning fast hands. He's a great combination puncher, but he's not super fucking fast. I think Teo's just going to time him. He's going to pick him apart, and he'll knock him out early, like round 4 or 5. I can't wait for that fight. They should just freak Haney out with a boring bomb anyways.
It's better to stay active than begging for a big payday like Terence Crawford.
Yeah, of course. At least Teo's active. And it's against a bum. It sucks. I mean, it could have been against a
but no, the thing is, Terence Crawford, he deserves it. He can do it now because he accomplished so much. He can just stay inactive and just hope for a big fight to come.
The problem is, I think Crawford gets a little bit diluted when he looks at his fans and he thinks, these people got my back. They know what I'm worth. Well, these fans, your fans they don't pay you what you believe you're worth because they're Twitter fans and shit. I mean, the same thing happens with Haney's fans. Haney and Crawford fans are one and the same. They're a loud minority that even if they do support him, they're not supporting him the way that people support like a Canelo or a Joshua or anything like that. They're not. These guys aren't fucking mega stars. And if he hears his fans say, he's worth this kind of money, he's going to believe it, but he's not. I mean, if you look at every pay-per-view he's done, aside of fucking Spence, who Spence is a bigger, well, maybe not now, but prior to the fight with Crawford was a bigger draw in every sense of the word. He's just not that guy.
I don't like pocket watching and saying what a guy should get. He should get this money or he shouldn't get this money. I mean, I just want to see the fights like you. And if he was reasonable, the Tim Tszyu fight probably would have happened. Yeah, that's the thing you got to look at.
They can make it
if
now.
He was reasonable, these fights would happen. But so when a guy is unreasonable, you say, okay, he's being a diva. To me, that's ducking.
Yeah. I mean, Crawford's not a guy that can ask for 70 or 80% of the split. He's just not. He's not consistent enough. He's not a big enough star to have.
Even ducking has nuances to it as well. Ducking has nuances, right? Are you ducking because Benavidez is 25 pounds too heavy. This guy Hitchison, he's fighting this Saturday. That guy Lemos is pretty good.
Yeah, Lemos is a good fighter. He was a number one fighter.
But he's fought straight cans though. He's fought nothing but cans. And
Hitchison, he stopped Selby. He retired Lee Selby, and Lee Selby used to be a pretty good featherweight champion. But
Hitchison's had said, let me just land the plane, homie. Hitchison's had just said he didn't want to fight Matias because the IBF has a rehydration clause. So he said no to Matias.
After
15 pounds. Fight. Can I just say, we're back to Crawford. I'm just going to say that I never rated Crawford better than Canelo.
No,
I know they're going to freak out because he hates Canelo so much, but that's the truth, and I can fucking prove it.
Bucho, you know how much shit I give Canelo ever since the Bivol fight, where he hasn't really stepped up to anybody super elite, and even now, when I've been like really bad on Canelo's case the last couple of years, I still rate Canelo over Crawford overall in his career, no question about it. Like,
I mean, look, man, they said that.
Think about that. He beat a guy like Lara. No, Crawford's never fought a guy as skilled or as dangerous as fucking Lara. And Canelo did that with a height and reach disadvantage. Crawford, a lot of times at lightweight, in some of his fights at 140, he was taller and or especially longer than everybody else. You know, how much credit am I going to give you for weight bullying at 135?
Well, he's definitely long, almost everybody. That reach he's got is not natural for his weight class.
He's very blessed, right?
It exceeds his height.
Yeah.
But you can't even go back to the Austin Trout fight. That was a big win.
Yeah,
remember
even though that fight was close to the people remember, Austin Trout wasn't a bum. He had just beat Miguel Cotto. That was a great win. So, and even though Jermell Charlo and them started cleaning him up later, I mean, Canelo got to him first. So,
and the reason why I bring Canelo in this debate, it's not just because I can bring other boxes, but the reason because I remember that for the longest of time, Crawford was like the number 1 pound for pound boxer above Canelo, and I just couldn't understand it. Oh, it's because he lost to Bivol. Oh, it's because I don't know. I don't remember the.
It was because of the Floyd Triple G shit. It's because
it was because of that.
The first fight was Golovkin. He clearly lost. The second fight was very controversial.
Oh, the draw, yeah.
But it was close, right? You could still argue Triple G should have won, and that's why they had Crawford above. But
I remember even after Canelo lost to Bivol, after Canelo loses to Bivol, they drop him from number 1, number 2, whatever. It's like, why? Because he fought a light heavyweight. Doesn't make fucking sense.
Let's talk about that too, Bucho. Bivol might not. So I don't like having 2 fighters in the top 10 pound for pound list if they're in the same division. So I had Bivol at 11 for a long time. But I moved Bivol all the way up to number 6 because he fucking schooled Zurdo Ramirez, and Zurdo Ramirez just won the cruiserweight title, the first Mexican to do that. Very, very underrated fighter. Completely schooled the guy he just fought. And Zurdo Ramirez is like honestly borderline great fighter, like legitimately great. He's like 2 wins removed from being a legit Hall of Famer, I think. And Bivol schooled the guy, so that just shows how great Bivol is. And yeah, Canelo lost badly, but I mean, so what? I mean, he gave up some height. Their reach is the same. Bivol is just. Crawford has never fought a guy anywhere near as good as Bivol, a prime Lara, well, Golovkin wasn't his prime, obviously, but even the 35 or 36-year-old Triple G, who's a consensus top 10 middleweight ever, Crawford's never fought anyone close to those guys, so I want to give him shit for his losses.
But look at how Bivol dominated a lot of his opponents. And when he fought Canelo, Canelo lost the fight, but
he didn't look as bad as
the other guys. He didn't look as bad as Zurdo or Callum, not Callum Smith. What's his name again? The guy from New York, whatever.
Joe Smith.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't look bad like those guys.
Yeah, he didn't look as bad as those guys. Yeah.
So, and here's a 5'9" guy who's not even supposed to be at super middleweight.
Like 5'8".
But he was to a decision, Bivol, and all of a sudden they drop him like 3 spots, 4 spots, whatever.
Yeah, that was terrible.
So it's like, man. And Crawford's fighting Amir Khan, Kell Brook. You know, it's like, look, he beat Sean Porter. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Sean Porter, what year was it? 2020, 2021, something like that? Like, at that point, Sean Porter, after that fight, Sean Porter retired. That's not.
And you could argue he should have lost to Danny Garcia, too, in that fight. And Danny Garcia was never an elite welterweight. I mean, that fight was close, too. So,
it was a close fight.
Exactly.
So it's propaganda again.
And we're back to welterweight again.
But it's true. Listen, I don't have anything against Crawford. I'm just saying I think he was.
No, we're talking about the entire division. We're not talking about him. We're talking
the
about
entire division was over. Yes, exactly. And Crawford, unfortunately, was part of that shit. He was on that wrong side of the street, and he was fighting these fucking useless fights.
Well, it's not that welter was bad. It's just we didn't get all the fights. We didn't see Spence, Thurman, Crawford. Like, those would have been all great fights with Virgil and Boots. The past 3 years could have been on fire, but the politics.
Well, I mean, Thurman was pretty much out of the picture after 2016. He came out and fought Manny, and that was an icing on Manny's cake. I think a prime Manny would have schooled the entire division without a problem. But I love Manny, but I think he was very fortunate that the person they wanted him to fight at the weight at that time was not Spence, Thurman, that had been off for as long as he did. And that's what helped Manny win that fight. Manny's a better fighter altogether, but that ring rust that Thurman brought in the ring with him only helped Manny even more. And but that, other than that, if you really look at Thurman beat Porter, Porter and Garcia, right? Okay, those were the guys top of the division at that time, right? Then he fell off and didn't do anything after that of note. And speaking of holding belts hostage, he had the WBC hostage for at least a year, if not longer, and the WBA all the way up until he fought Manny.
He loses against Manny Pacquiao. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. I don't care how legendary Pacquiao is. You don't lose to an old guy like that.
Well, he lost to an old guy who'd been off for a year. If I remember correctly, Manny had been off for a whole year and still comes back. Yeah. Now, I know that Thurman been off for 2 years, but he was 30 years old. He's his peak and prime. And Manny's 40 and been off for a year, and you lose to the guy. I never thought Thurman was much. I just thought he was the best of what they had at the division at that time when he was on top before he took his long hiatuses. But, I mean, I knew – this is what I knew about Porter. This is what – and unfortunately, it's one of Bud's best wins. So, I mean, when people talked about his resume, I got to take my lickings like a man. Don't take that the wrong way. Yeah, okay, so he beats Porter, but Porter on the way up needed 2 fights to convincingly beat a shot lightweight with a shaky chin and Diaz. And so when Spence is pushed to the limit by this guy, and I know we're more talking about Bud than Spence, when Spence is pushed to the limit by a guy who's less than knockout ratio is less than 50% and has to go the distance twice, 20 rounds with Antonio Diaz's brother. I don't know if that was Juan or Julio, because I get them mixed. There's a lot of Diaz's at lightweight at that time, who moved up to welterweight, and he needs 20 rounds to convincingly beat that guy. What does that tell you about Sean Porter? Now, he was a prospect then, and he eventually became a champion. But everybody else was knocking Diaz out. So why former amateur middleweight out? So my point on all this is the fact that he takes Spence life or death, and we all agree he was overrated. And then Porter ends up beating both of them. Not Porter, I'm sorry. Crawford ends up beating both of them. So it shows he's better than them. That's about as far as I can take it.
I think he was better than all of them. There's no doubt. Right. I mean, he didn't fight Thurman. He did fight Sean Porter, but maybe he fought him. He did fight Sean Porter at the last part of his career. But still, I do believe that he was that good to be them all. Unfortunately, he did not, and that's it. I mean, he's 36 years old. People are talking about, he's going to fight this guy. He's only looking for big fights at this point.
But do you know what gets me really, I just confused Bucho and shit? When I hear, the Crawford fanboys say, he'll obliterate Fundora, he'll obliterate Tim Tszyu. I'm like, dude, Tim Tszyu, Crawford doesn't bring anything, I guess, when it comes physically, that Tim Tszyu hasn't seen before. He's fought guys taller than Crawford, longer than Crawford, like Harrison, who went 1-1 with, Jamel Charcoal. He, fought Fundora, and even though he got outworked from that blood, he landed still the harder shots and was getting to a guy with a 9-inch reach advantage over him and a 10-inch reach advantage and a 9-inch height advantage over him and still picking him apart. So people talk about Crawford, and shit like that. I mean, he's the same height as Tim Tszyu, or a half-inch shorter, and his arms are 3 or 4 inches longer. That's it. I don't see anything that Crawford brings that would just make him obliterate Tim Tszyu. Could he beat him? Yeah, I think he could, but he's not going to roll through Tim Tszyu. And anyone who thinks that just doesn't know shit about boxing. And I hope we get that fight next. I hope Crawford doesn't fight some UK bum that I've been hearing about recently, and I hope he goes the WBO route and fights Tim Tszyu. And then we'll see what's what. I think Tim Tszyu will beat him.
But because Zzou's not going to drop down to 147. I mean,
no, he's going to go up and wait for I'm talking about for the vacant WBO title. Why would Crawford fight some fucking UK bum who's already been knocked out by Avanesian, right? The same guy Crawford stopped. Or you could fight a guy maybe.
Fundora giving up WBO?
Huh?
Fundora giving up.
Well, I'm sure he's going to get stripped because the WBO has been gagging on Crawford. He's going to get stripped if he fights Tim Tszyu again. Which, I mean, if Tim Tszyu wants to fight Fundora first before getting to Crawford, I don't blame him. I mean, he's got to get that back. So
So help me catch up on this because I saw he lost, and then there's all this. Well, we're gonna fight Spence next, and this is good, but this guy's pushing a mandatory. What is the landscape right now at 154?
So basically, Sam Lukowicz said he had a verbal agreement saying we're going to give Tim Tszyu a verbal, agreement through not this is Fundora's manager, just for a rematch clause, right? So I think they're going to rematch in the fall at some point. Spence, I don't know what the fuck. Spence is going to need to fight some top 10 guy. If Crawford is going to go ahead and fight some bum for the vacant WBO title, assuming Fundora gets stripped, which he probably would, because that's what the WBO, they support Crawford a lot, right? Spence could fight Israel Madrimov and get retired, because Madrimov would knock Spence the fuck out. You could see something like that. Or if Crawford doesn't want the vacant WBO title and would rather maybe fight the Tim Tszyu versus Fundora rematch winner for 3 of the 4 titles and for Ring Magazine Lineal, because it would be at that point the number 1, number 2 guys in the division, because Madrimov is ranked right behind maybe either Fundora or Tim Tszyu. But before that fight, he was the number 2 guy in the division. So it could end up, because Jermell Charlo is not going to fight at 54 ever again. He's too lazy. He's too busy punching his Latino wife in the eyeball and shit. So he's not. Yeah. He's done at 154. So what could happen is the winner of Crawford and Madrimov could fight the winner of Tszyu versus Fundora rematch, and it'll be for 3 of the 4 titles, and it should be for Ring Magazine Lineal. It'll be for the undisputed championship at 154, basically.
Which they be missing the IBF?
Yeah, because I think Cole K is gonna fight for that or some shit.
Okay, so that one's vacant right now.
Yeah, they're all vacant. Yeah, well, except for I guess 3 of them aren't anymore, except for the IBF. But yeah, Crawford doesn't just have to fight like Tim Tszyu, or like Spence doesn't just have to fight Tim Tszyu or Fundora.
How long is Crawford going to be waiting though?
If Crawford wants to wait, then fuck him. That is what it is. Like,
you're mentioning all these scenarios, but okay, if they become true, like, so when could Crawford come back?
I mean, it depends what he wants to do. If he wants to fight a UK bum, he can come back in July or August.
No, he's not going to fight a UK bum. That's the thing. Like, of course not. That's the way. You guys think he's going to do that shit now?
Who knows? I mean, whatever he gets. If it's in the UK, he might get enough money to maybe just have a nice tune-up. If Eddie Hearn guarantees him $8 million, $9 million, maybe he'll take it.
This is sad. They got to retire.
He could do it. Or if he wanted to fight Israel Madrimov,
he's already in the Hall of Fame.
Amount of money, he could do that. He's the WBA champion.
Well, the writers vote for the Hall, and him beating are going to impress enough writers that he'll get the Hall.
That Spence can fight Boachuk or whatever.
I mean, at this point, it's very easy to get in. So come on.
Well, at the end of the day, there's 2 things. One is the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Accomplishments, as my mentor once told me. And 2, it's a business. It's a privately owned business. It's not and so when they have to try and keep the fundraising up, to keep it coming in, to keep it open, they have to induct people that are going to sell tickets. This coming up, this year coming up is pretty freaking sad. But Michael Moore's getting in, and Diego Corrales is getting in posthumously, so he's not even going to be there to sign autographs. So I don't know what that's going to draw.
But is Diego Corrales really even worthy of like being a Hall of Fame? I'm not talking about just because he beat on his fucking wife and pushed her down the stairs or whatever the fuck. But I mean, this guy, he was a 2-weight world champion. He went 1-1 with Jose Luis Castillo, and he had a fucking miracle comeback. I mean, a fight he was completely losing, and he loses the rematch convincingly. Lost to Joshua Kalani.
Wait, he fought Casamayor, right? I forgot now.
Did he?
Yeah,
I thought that
he went.
I don't remember, man.
He went 1-2 against Casamayor. Not in that order.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
He lost
he might be able to make it. If he beat Castillo and Casamayor, he might be able to get
he lost that fight against Floyd. That was, the biggest fight. His first big fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. Why is he in the Hall of Fame? Because he had those exciting fights with Castillo?
Yeah, I guess that would be it. But like in terms of accomplishments or how great he is a fighter.
He had exciting fights against others. He had an exciting fight with the Brazilian guy.
Freitas.
That was a really good fight. He had an exciting fight with...
if he beat him, then I forgot about that. Because Freitas had 10, 15 title defenses at one point at 130 or some shit?
At 130, and then he won 35 title against... I forget who the guy was, but I remember him from the Olympics. And then, so he won, and that guy had a lot of defenses of that WBO belt at 135 when Freitas went up to beat him. and then it was a really good fight, even though I thought Freitas was winning.
Chief, they only let in 5 guys each year, right? I think, or how many?
One or two, no more than 2.
But they induct.
Are we talking how long people fight, or are we still talking about corrals?
No, I'm talking about the Hall of Fame. They induct.
I think 5
boxers per year.
I don't know how many they do, to be honest with you. When I went there, they were inducting of the modern era. It was Duran, Whitaker, Ricardo Lopez were the 3 that I remember the most. Then they were doing some old timers. And I don't remember his name, but BDA mentioned his name. He was a really tall Argentinian trainer. He mentioned him a couple shows back. He was being inducted. And so fighter-wise, I only remember those 3 that were being inducted. So I think I think Dora's right. They might go up to 5. It depends on the year.
Somebody saying 3. Yeah, I don't think it's 3. Somebody said 3. Maybe it's 3 and then non-participating or something like that. The other category where they have like announcers and shit like that. That makes 5, I think.
They have
3
modern. They have modern. I think it's called Legacy. There's like a median area, and then there's old timer. Then they have non-participants, like you said, announcers and people that contributed to the fighters and stuff. So.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking this is because you're telling me that there's nobody else but Corral. Like I feel like there's other people that deserve to get in there that probably are not there.
There are people that have not been inducted yet that definitely deserve it. I've been campaigning with people that I know that do vote for Wilfredo Vasquez to get in for years now. 3-division champion, 9 defenses at junior featherweight, all on the road, none of them at home. I mean, and then he has a win over Orlando Canizales, who's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Canizales is the consensus top 10 bantamweight ever, too. So that's crazy how he's not in there.
Exactly. I mean, come on. I mean, given he fought him at 122 and not at his best weight, but still, he beat the guy, and he beat him pretty convincingly, and then went on to win another world title. So there are guys that definitely deserve to be in there that are not. There's guys that some people don't deserve to be in there. Sergeant says in the chat room, Jose Luis Ramirez should.
Well, he had a lot of fights, but at championship level, he wasn't like a total killer. Jose Luis Ramirez, like I said, I don't know if he accomplished enough at world level to really make the Hall of Fame. He was just a great Mexican domestic level fighter. He beat Pernell Whitaker the first time, and people used to cry fucking robbery about that fight. That fight was not a robbery. Pernell Whitaker won like the first 4 or 5 rounds and basically just gave the fight away.
Yeah, he kept backing up the rest of the fight. He kept backing up.
I couldn't believe it.
He backpedaled almost the entire fight.
Yep. And eventually Ramirez got to him. He started getting to him, and that was it. Yeah.
The funny thing is when people say they talk about that fight, they'll talk about it because, it was robbery, because that's what everybody was saying, right? But when they talk about it with me and they tell me the events that happened, they describe the second fight, not the first one.
Exactly.
Even people at the Hall of Fame that I debated about that when Whitaker was getting inducted, I would debate with him about it, and they'd say what a robbery it was. He kept turning him, and he kept ducking, and he was turning around and getting behind him. That was the second fight. I was like, well, yeah, that's what he did. So, yeah, but we're talking about the first fight when you said it was a robbery. You're mentioning events that happened in the second fight. So it has nothing to do with this conversation. And, people just kept walking into it. Anyway, he has a win over Pernell Whitaker. He has a win over Evan Rosario, who's also in the Hall of Fame. So I'll put it this way. There's as much room right for Ramirez to be in there as there is for Diego Corrales. The thing, Bucho, is that people have to be retired for at least 3 years. It used to be 5. So they have to have been retired long enough. And then you got to look at it's not a resume thing, but you kind of have to look at what did these people do and why are we putting them in?
Yeah, but like you said, they also want to attract the fans.
And that's why Andre Ward's in my opinion. Because he's undefeated.
Yeah, Andre Ward. Do they count the what happens in the amateurs, though? Or because, he's boxing, right?
When I've read resumes of people getting inducted, they'll talk about, they were an Olympic gold medalist and blah, blah, blah. They'll never mention if you're a bronze medalist. or something like that. They might with Floyd because of his story, and they might with Roy Jones because of his story. But they never mentioned that I read of Michael Carbajal being a bronze medalist or Riddick Bowe being a silver medalist. You know what I mean? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Roy Jones was a silver medalist, not a bronze medalist. But anyway, You know what I'm getting at. The guys, the two guys that had a story of not winning gold, they might mention them, but they don't mention Virgil Hill as a silver medalist, even though he in his resume when he got inducted. So.
Well, now they will. I mean, back then, no, because the United States, they won so many gold medals. It's like, wow, we don't need to mention the silver medalist.
Yeah,
now, it's like, oh, yeah, he won a silver.
Bucho, should we talk about the Bam Rodriguez versus Estrada fight? Well, I just think Estrada's going to lay down for him, to be honest.
No, we need to make debates here. We need something to debate.
Or should we talk about, like, you know, how Shablak and, you know, Stank Davis are going to avoid Zepeda and Murataya?
Shablak?
Shakur. I call him Shablak.
Oh, my God. Why do you call him Shakur? Okay, I was confused before. You wrote it in the chat. Okay. Shakur? Yes, what about Shakur?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, do you think there's like rumors that he's going to fight Hardatunian next? And though he arguably did beat Frank Martin, it was a close fight. I mean, isn't that just like a shit fight? It's kind of like what I was getting on Teo for, you know, having a shit fight coming up next. But at least in Teo's defense, it's around the same time as Matias is going to be, when Matias is going to fight. I think they're setting up a unification for December or some shit. Like on Heisman night, probably, I bet. But when it comes to fucking, what's his name? You know, Shakur, he's got great fights right now. He could fight Murataya, Zepeda, you know, even Cripshawn Davis is a good fight. Those four should be mixing it up. Because if the roadmap is Tank Davis going to fight Frank Martin and who knows what, and if we assume Loma and Navarrete win and unify, if that's their roadmap, those four guys, David, Keyshawn, Murataya, Zepeda, and Shablak, they got to fight. And Shakur doesn't need to be holding that title hostage if he's just going to be fighting fucking bums. Because he got called out by both of them. We were assuming that Murataya's fight, after he won, you know, which was like, last weekend or some shit, was going to propel the fight and set it up for July against Shakur. Apparently, I heard Teo even turned down fucking Murataya. That's what Robert Garcia was saying. Now, do you believe that?
I don't know about that. Like, that's all gossip and shit, but let's talk about what happens if they fight, or what if Shakur fights Murataya? Like, how is he gonna fight this guy? Because who was the last fight? The last guy Shakur Stevenson fought. I forgot his name. De Los Santos. He was running away from De Los Santos. Imagine a guy like Murataya.
He's taller, or somebody else. Just long too. I think his footwork's a bit better. I don't know. I think Murataya could definitely win. I mean, Shakur could like really stink it up and like maybe get a clip robbery decision or do just enough to make the fight really boring to maybe eke out a decision. But if it's like a proper fight, like a real boxing match and shit with no blatant fouling, low blows, holding, clinching, he gets destroyed. Zepeda, Shakur could do whatever the fuck he wants. He could try to do all the cheating he wants. He still gets destroyed. I mean, he obliterated Hughes in 4 rounds.
He's overrated. He's overrated. The way he fought De Los Santos or whatever his name.
Like shit.
That's not pound for pound material. And that's why I'm trying to get Rebrid in here, man. He was saying that Shakur Stevenson is an ex-Messiah. He's the Kindun, the Lisa Al Gaib guy, you know, the chosen one. No, he was not. No, he's fucking not.
No, and the thing is, he wasn't even back foot fighting. He was literally jumping in the air to get away from De Los Santos. So he wouldn't even set the fucking punch, man. I mean, that was fucking bad. That was bad. He's not on my fucking pound for pound list. You serious? Nowhere near.
Generational talent.
I mean, I wouldn't mind fighting him, but if Loma's tied up with him, assuming he wins, I mean, you could argue Loma and Navarrete is already a top 10 pound for pound fight. You could actually make a strong argument that if Navarrete wins, because the guy he's fighting, Baranchik, was a silver medalist. You know, he was with the Loma Usyk team. You know, he was with the WBO for a while. Well, he's been a bit inactive. You know, he's old. He's 35. Maybe he could give Navarrete problems and outbox him because it's going to be his first spot at, you know, at lightweight. But if Navarrete wins, is he a Hall of Famer? Maybe we have to have a discussion about that, because right now he's 12-0-1 in world title fights. There's like 9 title defenses or some shit. And sure, it's not against the most elite competition, but he completely cleaned out Top Ranks Latino stable. And now, if he beats Baranchik, he gets to unify with Loma. I mean, would you have him?
Navarrete doesn't have a beautiful style, right?
Yeah. You said what?
He doesn't have a beautiful boxing
Right,
style.
but it's effective.
There's no craft.
Yeah,
He cannot be a pound for pounder.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if he wins. It doesn't matter if he wins. He needs to have this style that's beautiful to watch. That's like an art. That's like an Ali that floats. This is the bullshit that they fucking feed you, man.
Yeah,
this is the bullshit. No, forget about exciting. No, it has to look good.
I was gonna say, if he beats and knocks out Branchik, he'd have 9 KOs in world title fights, 4-weight world champ. And sure, his accomplishments on paper when it comes to the amount of weight divisions he won might be a bit better than what he's actually accomplished when it comes to his resume. But you got to remember with Benavidez, even though he was never a lineal champion, at one point at 122, when he beat Dogbay and a bunch of other guys, the Ring Magazine had him as a number one fighter at 122. He was a number one fighter at 126, number one rated fighter. He was a number one rated fighter at 130. And if he beats Branchik, he'll probably be somewhere in that top 10, maybe not quite top 5 because Branchik isn't elite. But to be the number one rated fighter in 3 different divisions by the Ring Magazine, how the fuck do these people? And if he goes up to beat Branchik and be a 4-weight world champ, how would they not put him on a top 10 pound for pound list? You got fucking Haney on there. You still have Spence on there. Gervonta Davis.
I mean, I'm not trying to bring the whole thing, but if he was an African American,
of course,
he'd be a completely. Oh man, come on. It'd be a different fucking story. And if he had a different style, look, he's the craft, the chosen one. But no, he gets hit. Oh my God, he gets hit. So eventually he's gonna lose. Eventually he's gonna lose, right?
That's what happens. But that's a good thing to get hit because that means you're getting your fucking lead down range and you're front foot dominant and you're making for a good fight and you're willing to beat the shit out of somebody. You don't want to see some fucking back foot princess fight like a pussy. Nobody wants to see that shit. It doesn't sell. And I don't know what Shakur is doing, but I'm not even convinced. I would say the Loma that fought Haney would beat Shakur. I think Haney would beat fucking Shakur. I mean, this guy's so overrated. He's the most overrated fighter in the sport. And we were saying this going in to the De Los Santos fight, I was saying De Los Santos has faster feet than anyone Shakur has ever fought. He's actually longer than Shakur. He's going to give him a lot of fucking problems. And he got all his fucking man fans, saying this bullshit. You could argue fucking Shakur lost that fucking fight. I think I remember watching it. It was hard to score. But Shakur didn't do shit. I think I had 7-5, 8-4 fucking De Los Santos. I don't know. Did you score the fight? Or did you just, it was so terrible you didn't give a fuck?
I didn't score the fight, no. No, it was so fucking boring.
Yeah, but it's a fight you could argue Shakur lost, and he wasn't even trying to make the fight happen. That guy's a fucking bomb, man. You see how he couldn't even fucking knock out a girl.
He had every excuse in the book, too. He started blaming Wade, his hand, his boys. He blamed everybody.
Yeah, he went to the bathroom, I guess, got on his knees with his boys in the bathroom, so I'm going to show you what happened. I guess for having an off night. Started gawking, I guess.
By the way, guys, I want to interrupt here just a second because I want to thank Dark Hado for gifting 5 BDA memberships to JumpTube, Sam Rando, Eric Rosas, Jose Severino Jr., and the Gucci Berserk. So thank you, Dark Hado, for initiating new members into the BDA family.
Yeah, that's like $25 or some shit, isn't it? That's not bad. It's a lot of members.
Dark Hado.
No, not bad.
But
but do you think Shakur is going to fight any of these guys? I mean, we know blacks don't fight each other, so I mean, is he going to fight Zepeda or Muratalla? Are we going to get these? Are we going to get the 2-man Latino, 2-man or 2 black? I guess Shakur calls himself Latino too and Puerto Rican. I mean, I guess he is, but the black Americans call him black, right? So are we going to get the Crip versus wetback matchup or what? Because I want to see those 4 mix it up. I'm going with the Latinos on that. I think Muratalla can beat.
It would be smart to make those fights.
I think so
because they would sell. You got a Mexican and an American.
Yeah, exactly. And you can put both African Americans fighting.
I don't know. It depends.
And you could argue it's a pay-per-view if you get one extra title fight on that card, right? And you have, let's say, Keyshawn Davis versus Muratalla, and you have Frank Martin, or not, excuse me, Zepeda versus Shakur. Those are 2 of the top 6, 7 rated guys in the division, according to the Ring Magazine. Why the fuck would they not want to fight each other? I mean, that'll sell a lot, especially if you just get one more title fight on there somewhere at 130. You can
that would
fight.
Sell whatever, but we know that's not how boxing works. Apparently, I mean, look at Tank Davis. He's fighting Martin.
Like,
Is that fighting gonna fucking sell? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's the thing though. They have David Benavidez. He's such a big star. He has to fight in a fucking Tank Davis undercard.
But dude, he's gonna like carry that pay-per-view. He is a big fighter. Like
carry the pay-per-view.
He's gonna help carry that shit because and I think PBC knows that.
I don't even think. Oh yeah, you think people go? Oh, I'm gonna get David Benavidez in the undercard? Like seriously? Like how many times have we seen Benavidez fight some guy nobody gives a shit? Like
but Bostic isn't like a total bum.
We know he's gonna beat.
Yeah,
Bostic's gonna lose, man.
No, Bostic will lose. But I mean, he was a former lineal champ. And he was a former WBC champ. I would argue he gave probably Beterbiev his hardest fight of his career because Beterbiev was down in the first 6 rounds of that fight against Bostic, 4 rounds to 2, and then Beterbiev started stepping on the gas. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, because even Top Rank has a really good stable at 132 with O'Shaquie Foster. You could set up fights with him and Cordina. You could, or if you want to put him and Lamont Roach, right, 2 African Americans, two Crips fighting. You could put that on a fucking Murataya, Keyshawn Davis, and Zepeda Shakur card. You have those 3 fight. That's going to do really good numbers, I think. I think those are great. All 3 of those fights are great matchups. But if these guys are just going to be protected and called fucking superstars when you got Keyshawn Davis fighting, a guy who just showed up to get paid and lose and fucking Pedraza, I mean, that guy was totally shot to fucking pieces and coming down in weight.
Yeah, listen, those divisions are stacked. But they're also stacked with a lot of question marks.
Yeah,
By the way, Quentin in the chat says Vosdik will be 37 years old.
Yeah, but age isn't as bad. Oh shit!
All right, let me ask you this question to everybody: like, does Benavidez need to stop Vosdik?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, this is a light heavyweight fight. First time, I think it's the first time Benavidez fights a light heavyweight. Yeah, now, if he struggles, there's gonna be all these fucking questions now.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm happy.
Why is this guy a weight bully? He fought somebody that's somewhat big. He's fighting a light heavyweight, and he struggled, and he didn't get him out of there. They might be fucking Benavidez.
But that's the thing about talking shit. You got to back it up, right? If he wasn't talking shit, nobody would expect him to back it up. Like Rolly Romero.
Well, his fans are going to be,
yeah. What do you guys want to see Benavidez do next if he stops Bostic? If the Canelo fight doesn't happen, which I don't think it's going to happen.
He said fight the winner, better be if. That's what he said.
I think that's probably what he's got to do because if he can't get Canelo, he might as well fight those guys. Also, go ahead.
Yeah.
Where would you guys rate the? I was gonna say, where would you guys rate the Bivol Beterbiev winner on the pound for pound list? Do you think you could argue top 3? And I had this argument with, and why I would have, let's say, if Beterbiev or Bivol, but let's just say, for argument's sake, Bivol beats Beterbiev, right? And the reason I'm giving him a bigger chance now is just how great Zurdo looked. Back then, like after Beterbiev obliterated Callum Smith, I was like, Beterbiev's gonna beat Bivol easily, but Zurdo's really fucking good. So let's just say Bivol wins. He'd have wins over Canelo Alvarez, Zurdo Ramirez, and Beterbiev. And you look at guys like Crawford, who's like they say he's the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He doesn't have his top 3 wins. Don't compare to that. Inouye's a great fighter in his own right too, and I think pound for pound he's better than Crawford. But even his top 3 wins wouldn't compare.
Not only that, Dora, how many title defenses does people have at this point?
It's like 10 or 11 now, I think.
That's a lot, man.
And yeah, I mean, if he beats Beterbiev, or vice versa, Beterbiev beats Bivol, I think you could argue these guys are legit top 5 light heavyweights ever. Up there with Archie Moore,
I'd have to look at the list.
Gene Tunney,
I would have to look at the list. Top 5 for sure, maybe top 3. I don't know who's in there. So it's number 1.
Charles, Archie Moore, Gene Tunney. I think Spinks is in there.
Oh, you're talking about all time. No, I'm talking about pound for pound list.
Oh, I was talking about all-time light heavyweight and top 5 pound for pound. I think the winner is both.
Oh shit, I don't know about that. I'm not a historian.
I don't know. I mean, Beterbiev knocks
out ahead of Crawford. I know that. You'd have to go above Crawford.
Don't say that. You're gonna piss off people, man.
I already did.
Yeah, I don't care. The winner of this fight's above Crawford on my pound for pound list. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. That guy's inactive at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so who do you have right now? Okay, you have Usyk, Inoue.
Yeah, number 1. I got Inoue at 2. Loma's got to keep fighting. I have him at 3. I have Canelo at 4. And I'd have Canelo higher if he beat Benavidez. I'd argue he'd be number 1.
Wait, hold on. Who do you have 3?
Loma, because of the Haney bullshit robbery. And I'd put Canelo at 4 for now. And I
agree with you here, man.
Bro, Canelo has to
Loma,
fight.
I mean, no, that's the Loma thing.
That's bigger than him. Dude, I don't like him, but he is elite. Would you pick Teofimo to beat Haney?
No, but officially he didn't. I mean, I don't know how this shit works, but officially he didn't beat Haney.
Yeah, but I don't care about officially or any of that shit. It's just my personal list, like based on, what
you're right.
happened. Yeah, I'm not gonna fucking hold a guy accountable for getting robbed.
So if Bivol wins, would you move Loma down or something?
Yeah, probably temporarily, unless he beat fucking Zepeda like down the line or some crazy shit like that. Yeah, I'd probably put Bivol at 3. I think that's fine.
Quentin in the chat says Lomachenko doesn't even fight often.
He's going to fight, and he's going to unify, hopefully, with Navarrete in November, December. My criteria is as long as you fight at least once a year, you'll be on my list. I have guys like Toronto.
And because who you fight, obviously.
But yeah, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
The last time Canelo fought an elite active fighter, he got dismantled. I know he had some physical disadvantages, mostly height, but I just think stylistically he would have always lost that fight just because, for whatever reason, Canelo used to be this great combination puncher at 154. And ever since he got to 168, he's just so enthralled with his power and he loads up too much. I actually think his punching technique has like gone by the wayside a little bit. I think his skills, like in some instances, have deteriorated. Like his head movement's still pretty damn good and all that, but his punch selection just isn't what it used to be either. He used to be a much more accurate fighter, and he just used to look so much better when he was younger. Like even in the second Triple G fight, I think that's the best Canelo ever looked. Even though I thought he barely lost that fight, you can still make a case he won, and Triple G's a consensus top 10 middleweight ever. But yeah, I got Navarrete somewhere near that top 10. If he beats Baranchik, he'll be in my top 10 list. He's like right there. But my lists are like, you have to do a lot to be in my top 10. I don't have Shakur in there. I don't have Haney in there. I don't have it, even though I think both are okay fighters. They're not like bums, but they're not what they're made out to be by the American media. I don't have Tank Davis in my top 10 pound for pound list. I don't have Spence in there. You gotta be great to be in my list. Like you have to be like a legitimate, arguable Hall of Famer to be on my top 10 pound for pound list. Because there's a lot
Adam,
you gotta think about.
In the chat, really says Bivol overrated. He just went in there and beat up Canelo. Well,
he beat Zurdo Ramirez, dude. Zurdo Ramirez just won a belt.
Why you keep mentioning Zurdo Ramirez? Like, are you mentioning Zurdo Ramirez now because he won some fucking cruiserweight title or something?
That's impressive because
come on, man. Like, I don't know, man.
Than Zurdo.
That guy choked against Bivol. Bob Arum didn't even believe in this guy even before that fight.
If you look, that guy is a skilled fighter. He's fast. He has great reflexes. He's a good combination puncher. He looked great. Did you not see the fight?
No, I didn't see the cruiserweight fight. No,
watch it. I'm telling you, he looked amazing.
I saw the Smith fight, and he was fucking bloated, and he was slow as fuck.
Yeah, but he wasn't in shape in that fight. But if you look at his last fight, dude, he looked phenomenal. I would give him a chance to beat Jairo Pataya. I really would. That's how good I think Zurdo is now.
Oh, you gotta watch the fight then. I thought he was.
He schooled him. He completely fucking schooled.
Yeah, but who won this fucking French Armenian guy? I don't know.
He had like 3 title defenses or some bullshit.
Oh wow!
And he was undefeated.
Cruiserweight. Oh
yes.
There's nobody at cruiserweight right now, I think.
But still, that was an impressive win. I'm not gonna fucking shit on Zurdo. That was a very good win. I gotta watch
the fight. Okay, so now you think he looked fast?
Yeah, did you watch it?
Like a bloated corpse at cruiserweight, bro.
Did you watch the fight? Did you watch his last fight?
Yeah, I did. I watched it. Yeah.
He looked fast.
He was fat and slow, bro.
You're so fucking.
Don Ramon in the chat says Zurdo.
Why do you guys hate on Zurdo so much? I don't get it.
I'll tell you why, man. I'll tell you why because of that Bivol fight. I'll tell you why.
Bro, so what? Canelo got beat almost just as bad as Zurdo did.
No, he didn't. Oh, shit, man. I know you hate Canelo, but you're acting like
I'm
you're
serious. How many rounds
People were fucking missing punches. Even I was watching the fight. Canelo's on the ropes. He's inviting Bivol to come in. Bivol doesn't even fucking do it. At some point he did, and he missed all the punches. He was throwing punches like a little midget.
Offering anything back.
Yeah, he did. And look at the Zurdo fight. Zurdo was just. And look at Zurdo, how he lost. This guy really was like
statue, bro. He was a statue.
They both
were like they both did the exact same. I'll tell you.
Fucking shit, man. Okay, now you're just talking bullshit, man. He did the same as Zurdo. Like, it's not even the same fight, man. It's completely different.
Zurdo
Like,
could be the number one guy in cruiserweight in the next 2 years or less. I'm telling you, he's that good. He's a very crafty southpaw.
I can't say because I didn't watch the fight.
Like, I used to think Bivol was great, but maybe a tad overrated. But after I saw what Zurdo did in his last fight, I'm like, maybe this guy can actually beat Beterbiev.
Yeah, people are saying that this guy was 37 years old from France. I don't even remember the last time a France produced a champion.
The age isn't the same when you're going up in weight like that. The guy was undefeated. He had 3 title defenses. He was on the Ring Magazine top 10 list, clearly. He won the fight. And he won like every fucking round. Why are people shitting on Zurdo Ramirez?
And then you're saying he's going to beat Opetaya.
He could,
I don't know. Opetaya looks deadly, man.
Yo, look, bro, you're saying this guy was such a great champion.
What's this pro-Mexican? Bro, you guys are not pro-Mexican at all, apparently. What the fuck is this shit?
No, when I'm pro-Mexican, you complain, and then I'm anti-Mexican now.
How are you shitting on Zurdo? How are you
happy, man?
He's a two-weight world champ. He made history at 168 and 200 pounds for Mexico.
He did it. Yeah, he did it.
All right, so.
If he beats Jai Opetaia, he becomes a Ring Magazine.
Oh, if he beats him, yeah.
He could legit be having an argument close to the top 10 pounds.
I think you know what? You're just hyping up Zurdo because you want to hype up, well, not hype up, but you want to help Bivol's resume, basically.
Well, it's still good. Bivol's resume is still good. He has 11 title defenses. He has like wins over 3 or 4.
Yeah, but you don't have to mention Zurdo.
Dude,
but you keep mentioning, he beats Zurdo. It's like, who gives a shit?
Like 3 pound for pound.
What? Did you ask a question?
The winner of Bivol Beterbiev should be considered in the top 3 pound for pound. We would have the winner of Bivol Beterbiev over Crawford. I mean, all of us agree on that. You know, for now, temporarily, I'd have it over Canelo unless Canelo beat Benavidez or some shit.
Why? These guys never moved out of the weight class.
That is what it is. Yeah, you're right. I'm just outgrown 168 too. I mean, you got to think he's been fighting there since he was what?
These dudes never left the weight class. You want to call him pound for pound?
You said what?
Neither of these dudes ever left their weight class, and you want to put them above every pound for pound.
Dude, they both have like 10 title defenses, and they're both extremely dominant. They both have great wins.
They both have 10 title defenses, bro, and they've been in the same weight.
Then they're fighting each other. You could argue both these guys are legit.
Now they're fighting each other, bro. But now you want to put them pound for pound above everybody? Come on.
No, I said top 3. I wouldn't have them above Usyk or Inoue, but I'd probably have them number 3.
You know, Dora is very high on these guys because they're not black or Mexican. That's
dude. They're I don't. How?
Wait. In the chat, in the
pound for pound fighter, I legit just was high on Zurdo Ramirez at cruiserweight, saying he could beat Jai Opetaia. Why do you guys sit there and think I'm not a Mexican basher? I just fucking shit on Canelo because he's not fighting Benavidez.
I'm looking the chat is saying that Bivol's best win is going to be Beterbiev, who is a grandpa now.
Yeah, but he's still really obliterated Callum Smith worse than Canelo did, and he's won every fight by knockout. I don't think you guys understand when you're older and shit at that weight class. You know, 36, 37, 38. It's not as bad if you're fighting at lightweight, welterweight, fucking flat, whatever it is. Once you get above like 160,
it's still not heavyweight.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
No, that applies to heavyweights. Come on, that bullshit about
bullshit. Looked fast against Callum Smith. Beterbiev looked pretty fucking fast against Callum Smith. Did he not look sharp against Callum Smith? He fucking obliterated the guy. He won every round.
Yeah. No, that's a good win. Like, the guy's still a champion, obviously, for a reason. So I guess the age.
He should be lineal. I don't know why the Ring Magazine doesn't give him the lineal title. He should have been lineal forever because when he beat Vostok, that was bullshit. But no, I mean,
in the chat, OG Blaze says Bivol and Beterbiev both get spanked by Opetaia. I mean, possibly. I mean, that jump between light heavyweight and cruiserweight is massive.
It is big. It is big. A lot of it is.
I always said there should be another division in between, like a 186 or something.
Maybe you could consider that. Yeah.
Junior cruiserweight, I would call it.
Yeah.
Although it sounds pretty bad, but yeah.
So what else now that you're going to see a Hall of Famer in your eyes, or do you still need a couple more wins against champions if he wins in June to become? I think it's May or June. I can't remember when he's fighting to be a 4-weight world champ. Would you put him in the Hall of Fame, or does he need 1 or 2 more marquee wins?
Which boxer?
Benavidez.
Oh no, he would be a Hall of Famer.
I think so too, and he'd be on my top 10 pound for pound list. So this whole "I hate Mexicans" is bullshit. And you guys act like I've been like critical of Canelo like all the time.
I'm fucking joking, man. Jesus Christ,
I haven't been
man.
critical of Canelo's entire career. Like, there's just points where I'm like frustrated because, like, I remember when Stu came on.
No, you
like,
just make a big deal out of both. He didn't fight Golovkin. He fought him a year later or something.
Fighter, they would be getting so much.
He fought him when he was old. He was already old to begin with. Since Golovkin.
No. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about the Triple G shit. What I'm saying is, if you look at Canelo's career, there's things that he's done that's very, very great, and there's some things there's controversy in there. Obviously, that's that kind of normal with a lot of like great champions and shit. But there's a guy there that has all these physical advantages over you. A lot of people think you're going to lose, and I want to see Canelo be the underdog because if he wins, you can make a very strong case that he is number one pound for pound. The only one I think you could argue might have him beat, depending on the Usyk Fury fight. If Usyk wins, is Usyk. That's it. If Canelo beats Benavidez, I'd have him above Inoue pound for pound, and I love Inoue.
See,
like I enjoy watching Inoue more than Canelo, and I would say if Canelo beats Benavidez, he's higher pound for pound than Inoue, and maybe even Usyk. But if he doesn't take the fight against an elite fighter,
you dismiss almost everything that Canelo did at 168. He's the one that cleaned up the division, except for that Benavidez win.
Billy Joe Saunders has no elite wins outside the UK domestic level. David Lemieux is a fucking Triple G's leftovers, right? And he was a boring fight. Fucking Martin Murray, Triple G's leftovers. Hassan and Dom, I think who he fought was shot to pieces. Dude, Billy Joe Saunders fought nobody, man. Literally nobody. He's not that good. He was never that good. There's a reason
why did you mention Billy Joe Saunders and get stuck with like that name? Like, okay.
There's a reason he was an 8-1 favorite in that fight. He wouldn't be an 8-1 favorite against
Billy
Benavidez.
Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders. Okay.
Yeah, go look at his resume, please.
Okay. Well, what about Billy Joe Saunders?
It's trash.
Who gives a shit? Okay, so now let's look at all the other fights that Canelo fought.
Zepeda, who has won a title, is a better fighter than
at 168. Caleb Plant when he was undefeated.
That was decent. Yeah,
Alan
that's his
Smith
best win.
won the World Boxing Super Series. Oh, but he beat George Grove was shot. So all those everybody in that tournament was garbage. Oh my
George
God.
Grove had already been knocked out twice, and he was contractually mandated to fight Callum Smith. He wanted to retire. So that fight was trash. Then he fight.
I wonder where he was ranked when he entering that tournament. Where was George Grove ranked? Like, he was probably ranked pretty high.
He was a Ring Magazine champion, but the 168 was trash at that point. And George Grove
was done. Oh, you didn't even fucking know that. All right, there you go.
I'm telling you, if Callum Smith was as great as you guys say he was, he wouldn't have got obliterated the way he did, Bob.
You could literally do that for any fighder. We just did it with Crawford. We just did it with Inoue. Who was the Palace? Who was the Palace? Who was Fulton?
Do it with fucking Benavidez now, Dora. I fucking dare you. Do it. Break down his record.
Hold up, before I get to you, Bucho, I agree. Tapales is like the level of a Callum Smith or Caleb Plant. Same with Fulton. I don't overrate Inoue's wins. I'm not saying every single win Inoue has is goddamn crazy elite.
Yeah, Fulton was comparable to Plant, but they're still good champions. They're still good champions. The whole thing about Crawford's ass. But they're not going to make.
When Canelo beats Caleb Plant, when Canelo beats Caleb Plant, not a good win. When Benavidez beats Caleb Plant,
that's not what I said at all. Caleb Plant was a great win. I said that was his best win in the division.
But so why did you get stuck with Billy Joe Saunders? No, he beat Billy Joe Saunders.
Billy Joe Saunders.
Billy Joe Saunders.
They're not. Billy Joe Saunders.
Here's Benavidez. Benavidez is kind of stupid. Like, because he said something on that Fresh and Fit podcast, right? He said Canelo lost to Floyd when he was 23. Well, what was Benavidez doing at 23? Like, he made the stupidest point.
He was a champion at 21, wasn't he, or some shit? So,
but he wasn't fighting legends. So who did he beat though? He wasn't fighting anybody at 23.
Fight, man. He's been respectful to Canelo for years, and Canelo's curbing him because he doesn't want to fight him. I mean, it's kind of obvious at this point.
No, it's you ripping Canelo's resume apart, which is fine, okay, but you could do that with anybody.
I'm not doing that throughout his entire.
I don't even think it's fine.
I'm not doing it. It's just not. It's not what you guys claim it is at 168. If you had Benavidez, that's a different story. But he hasn't fought him.
What you claim it is? What are we claiming it is?
It's not what you guys claim.
What are we claiming it is? What are we claiming it is? First of all, let's get that. What are we claiming it is?
You guys were saying it was some crazy historic undisputed run. Like, I mean, it's better than Crawford's run at 140. I agree.
I'm
with
just
that.
saying he cleared the division. Basically, there's only one guy left.
But no, he
hasn't been doing shit for.
Benavidez been the number one Ring Magazine contender for the last 3 or 4 years. He's been regarded better than all the guys Canelo beat, even before
without a belt.
Them.
Man, that's pretty amazing, man.
At some point, Benavidez is. Yeah, you're right.
That's how good he is. All right, we got a super chat from JXV88. Thank you for that. He says, David Benavidez, a legend, only in sparring.
He's just not giving. I
mean,
hope
that guy is
an opportunity against Bivol Beterbiev. I mean, if Beterbiev wins, he might just retire because he's so fucking old. But I hope Benavidez gets an opportunity because I think.
Well, you better pray he looks good against Vozik.
Well, he'll look good.
His first fight at light heavyweight. Are you gonna be nervous? All right. Are you gonna be a little bit nervous?
No, you guys were saying that shit about fucking what's his name, Dudu Andrade, and you were like, Bucho, you said you never know, Dora, you never know. And I remember texting you saying you just fucking spanked the guy. He started laughing.
I said you never know,
bro. You picked Benavidez to win like an 8-4-7-5 decision. I said Benavidez would knock him out in 8 or 9 rounds, but Andrade isn't as durable as I thought, so he got him out of there in 6. I said the first 2 rounds would be competitive, which they were, and then after that, Benavidez would run away with the fight, and that's exactly what he did.
Okay, so what does it have to do with Vozik? I'm not really sure.
But Vozik is I'm saying.
I mean, you're basically saying it was an easy pick, right? That was an easy pick. He was fighting a little guy with no power. I thought that guy was going to be moving around and be able to survive. I didn't pick Andrade to win that fight, obviously. I know, but now we're talking about that light heavyweight. He wasn't good, and you thought he didn't have a good jab, or as good of a jab as I thought he had, and it showed. You thought he couldn't get to him as easily as I thought. He's just big. He's bigger than Andrade. Don't make it out to be as this guy is some fucking technical, amazing boss. He has some good, skills, but it's not. You're making it out to be as because you broke down the fight with he's gonna throw that jab.
But at this point, you can't argue that Canelo is a better combination puncher than Benavidez. Now, at 154, that Canelo, yeah, you could argue, but not this Canelo over the last 4 years.
There's no need for combinations. Only counters.
No need for combination punching.
No, he needs to counter that big guy. And actually, I think he stops Benavidez.
He's not even going to fight him, so why are we talking about it? It's a fantasy fight.
I think he stops Benavidez. He staggers him.
I'm totally confident in that.
He's going to load up on one of those punches. He's going to, he's easy target.
Crazy.
I'm not even crazy. I'm serious, man. I was playing that fight in my head.
Guys.
Canelo's going to hurt.
He's a career 154 guy.
The reason he's going fighting at 175 is because he doesn't want to have to kill himself to make weight.
Well, he
knows that he has to kill himself.
The fucking weight class. I mean, listen, he's been in there for 10 years. This fight could have happened 3 years ago. And if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. There's nothing Benavidez can do about it. He can move on.
Well, then doesn't that prove Canelo Alvarez's point that the guy was a weight bully? That's the only reason he's done it.
Lomachenko fought a weight bully. Yeah, he doesn't have the power as Benavidez, obviously. I know Benavidez is a better fighter than Haney. But, yeah.
No, but you say that's smart. You say that's smart. If Tank Davis was smart enough to put a weight clause on Ryan, because Ryan is a big-ass fucking 135, Look at how he's looking at 140.
No, it's diva shit, man. Fuck that.
That's not.
He didn't do anything. By the way, in the chat, Amok with a super chat, he says, "Thank you for that." He says, "David Benavidez dogged 175 since 2020. Where's that same energy?"
Because he was trying to get the Canelo fight, man. He's putting himself in a position to get mandated to fight the winner of the whole.
Taking it easy, relaxing. Having a drink.
Yeah, okay, so he knocked out Andre Durrell. No one had ever done that. Benavidez was the first to do that. He fought Caleb Plant, beat him. He won a terror. He was on a fucking 8-9 fight knockout streak at one point. I think in his last 10 fights, he stopped.
You were just ranting and raving about B-Ball. You think Benavidez beats B-Ball?
He has a chance. He'll look better than Canelo did.
You don't believe that he beat B-Ball. You don't even believe that.
I haven't even seen him at light heavyweight yet.
He couldn't stop Caleb Plant, and he had trouble. You're saying he beats Dimitri Bivol?
Dude, Caleb Plant struggled, or Canelo struggled with Caleb Plant in the first 4 rounds of their fight. He arguably lost every fucking round.
But he knocked him out. You were just slobbing on Bivol knob, and now you say David beats
you guys gotta be honest. We talk about these Crips holding and shit like that all the time. The only reason that fight even went the distance is because Caleb Plant was holding on for dear life for like 4 or 5 rounds straight. He if you look at Caleb Plant's face after he fought Benavidez and compare it to Canelo's, Caleb Plant got fucking obliterated and busted up bad by Benavidez. And the only reason he survived is because he was able to fucking clinch and break the fucking rules. If we're being honest, that's it. That's just a fact.
And that
I mean, Benavidez allowed Plant to grab him, to hold him, because he's flat-footed. He squares up. He's not that good.
He's got weaknesses, but he's got a lot of talent. And based off of that talent, and I mean, if you want to go back to the analogy I made before about the whole Donaire thing, at 175, is he going to be able to do everything at the same time in unison like he did at 168? There's the question. He hadn't even fought there. Like you said that yourself, Bucho. He hadn't even fought there yet. So we don't know what he's capable of doing. But we know he's got the size, the length, the power, the speed, all these kind of things to give anybody from 168
to 175 issues. I mean, his hands.
Yeah, I won't go cruiserweight. I won't go cruiserweight. But definitely.
No. Okay, yeah. So are you saying Chief? Are you saying that Benavidez is finally going home to 175?
I mean, don't put words in my mouth that I'm saying that, but I mean, he's obviously going that direction, and he's not staying at 168.
So he's big.
Oh yeah, he's
gonna
big.
Fit right in. He's gonna fit right in.
He's big. He can hold the weight. I don't think it's going to be a problem for him to make the weight. I don't think it's going to be a problem for him to beat many of the fighters there. But there's only 2 fighters that really matter there at this time since he's not there, and that's Bivol and Beterbiev. Can he beat either one of them? I have no clue. I have to see what he even looks like at the weight. And the reason why I say that is because Wilfredo Gomez, 122, he could knock out anybody. He moved up only 4 pounds, and he couldn't knock out anybody. He moved up only 4 pounds to 126. He couldn't knock out anybody. So, I mean, that's my case of one fighter, but that's one case of a fighter where those 4 pounds made a huge difference. And we're talking 8, 9, 70, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're talking 7 pounds, right? I mean, I'm not a math guy. So 7 pounds. That's a lot more than 4. So it could have an impact on him. I have no clue. They have to wait and see the proof is in the pudding. But he's got the frame to carry everything to where he should be above average. Now, does that mean he beats Bivol? No. Does it mean he beats Beterbiev? No. Does it mean that he is the one guy outside of the 2 of them that can give them a run for their money? If he's everything everybody believes him to be. I have my reservations about him based off the Caleb Plant fight, like some people said, but also the fact that he hasn't taken his career seriously. He takes long layoffs in between. We said it on the show when BDA was hosting a little while back. Not if he's ducking Canelo or Canelo's ducking him, but he's had his chance to use the WBC to make him mandatory for Canelo. Hasn't done it. He's never really sent a real financial offer.
That's not true. You can't. It's up to the sanctioning body to mandate the fucking fight. They said the WBC said forever.
Hold on. Let me ask this real quick.
Last time the WBC mandated fucking Canelo to fight somebody, it was Triple G. He gave up the belt, and he just started shit talking Suleiman for months about it.
Let me ask you a question.
They don't want to lose Canelo. They don't want to lose his money, so they're not going to mandate the fight, and they're going to let Canelo do whatever the fuck he wants. Same with every other sanctioning body.
Let me ask you a question, and I know where you're going with this on the diva, and he makes the money so he can make any decision he wants to. I'm not even going to debate that fact. Can the number one guy petition the sanctioning body to make them the mandatory? Is that something Benavidez has the ability to do as the number one contender to push them to make him do that?
Not only that, maybe whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But
Jimmy said it's possible. I believe Chief. What's the answer, Chief?
Well, listen, the WBC.
Oh no, I was asking based off of the argument.
Oh well, Jimmy said that you can, and they didn't do it.
So that's the way I remember it too. Is the fact that if a fighter wants it bad enough, they could take the petition to the governing body and say, "Hey, I'm number one contender. Make me the mandatory." And he hasn't done that, as far as anything I've read or seen or anybody's told me. So now, Dora, I hear exactly where you're going of what he's done in the past. We've already had the argument of what's been in the past when it comes to fighters. We don't need to go there again, especially in this case. But the point on Benavidez's side is that They haven't issued money out saying this is how much we can offer you. They haven't forced his hand to the WBC saying, hey, make me the number one contender, make him lose the belt. They haven't done their end of that. And now the likelihood that WBC would bend the knee to Canelo, you have a very valid point. But on Benavidez' side, he hasn't even tried.
But the WBC said themselves they would mandate the fight. I said they weren't going to hold their word, and that's exactly what happened. Why would Benavidez going to do it? The sanctioning body saying they're going to mandate the fight.
So they said they were going to?
That was in 2023 after he fought Plant. Yeah, they did.
Right, and no one's done it yet, right? Because he's number one, but is he?
The fact that Lukowicz, as I call it, he wanted the TV rights or something, just gives me the vibe that these guys were not serious at all to begin with. They were asking for too much TV rights. Why? Why the TV rights? Just get the fight done.
Well, if we're going by the mentality that we were going earlier at the beginning of the show, that if you're asking too much and you're pricing yourself out, then that's the duck. Well, then if that's the case, and the one ducking here isn't Canelo, it's Benavidez, based off of that premise that we said earlier. So,
yeah, there was something weird happening, and Canelo got pissed off. That's how I see it. I don't know. I wasn't there. Nobody was there during the negotiations. JXV88, thank you for that super chat. He says Canelo been stripped before David Benavidez ain't filed paperwork. Apparently, he didn't file any paperwork.
Okay.
And what else are people saying in the chat? OG Blaze says he's an interim champ like Adam is. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, and then we have Julio in the chat. Julio, he says they can make the fight. Sorry, they can make the fight is because Canelo. What? The weird thing is the excuse making for Canelo. Okay, I don't know, man. You need to write a little bit better than that. He's saying Canelo is the one that doesn't want to fight, and it's up to Canelo. It's up to Canelo. It's not all up to Canelo, guys. This is what you don't understand. It's not all up to Canelo. It's up also to David Benavidez to act reasonably, or his camp to act in a reasonable fucking manner. TV rights. We want the TV rights. And then Lukowicz posts something on Twitter, then he removes it. Oh, we offered them, I don't know how many millions. It wasn't even true. What's happening?
Well, all I can say is this. When someone like Benavidez or when Devin Haney made that comment about Shakur, we offered him $8 million and it was 25% of the purse. Well, Jimmy actually broke the math down. You do the math backwards of dividing it, and that $8 million turns into
Haney isn't worth $25 million.
That's not even the point. That's not even the point. And I understand where you're going with that, and you are correct. But it's not even a matter of what does Haney even have that money to offer. Maybe in his personal bank account, but as a business account to have the money secured and ready to go to make an offer like that. Does Haney Promotions or whatever he calls himself and his quote unquote business side have the money to offer that? He doesn't. He represents himself through promotion. He promotes nothing on his own. He just represents himself. So he can't even offer that because he's got nothing to back it with. When Benavidez, and we know Benavidez doesn't have any money to really offer anything like that. So when he's saying he's offered $50 million, where is it? Where's the money? Is it secured? Where do you have it? Is this projected money you're going to get based on
social media? We're in the age of social media. You can say whatever the fuck you want. You know,
right,
just type it. And that's what's happening. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's why would he make that statement? Like, because they're high, they're on drugs, and they're on social media. That's my opinion on this shit. They're fucking on drugs. They're just typing whatever it comes to their fucking mind. They're not even thinking when they type those fucking messages, and they just send them.
Yeah. So
that's totally what's happening. King KO says Haney, a matchroom fighter. Eddie got the money. No, he doesn't. Julio says Canelo has no problem making any other fight. Well, I mean, other fighters are not acting like fucking David Benavidez.
That's people paying them. That's people making offers to him. What he was saying, if someone wants to make me an offer for Benavidez, then I'll fight him. It's the same thing. Like, somebody has to put it up. That's the whole point. They have to make the offer. They're paying Canelo to fight these fights, so they must want him to have these fights.
She says Canelo has no problem making any other fight. No, these other fighters have no problem making fights with Canelo. That's how you have to look at it.
Of course, nobody has a fight. Nobody else has a problem making a fight with Canelo because they're going to take what's offered. It's going to be a career high payday no matter who it is.
Exactly. There you go. See?
Jimmy said this once before. When they make these offers, they're usually paying Canelo with his money. Now, it's not really literally his bank account money, but it's the money he's already going to generate or demand up front as is. And it's the money that more likely now, whether they lose money off of paying him and then making bankroll for the rest of it, that's irrelevant to Canelo. Canelo just wants the money that he's asking for. And I'm not a Canelo fan. I'm not going to his aid on any of this. But the point is, if you're going to fight someone like Benavidez, you're not going to ask for your normal 32 like you would Jamal Charlo. You know that Charlo's 2 weight classes down, doesn't belong in the same ring with you. You know you're going to expose him. You know he really isn't there to try and win. You know it's the first part of a 3-fight deal, so they're going to give you something to try and whet the people's appetite with or something like that. When it comes to Benavidez, all right, 1, it's a challenge. 2, it's a Mexican versus a Mexican. 3, this guy actually does have a following. Even if it's not a paid following, he does have a following. So I'm not going to take my normal 32. I want 40. Okay. I don't think that's unreasonable for him to want more. I don't know how much more, but I don't think it's unreasonable. But it's just like Frank said. Now we get to the point of, so who's going to put the money up?
Right.
Because we know Al doesn't have it.
That's rational. What's irrational is to say, well, no, what's happening here is that Canelo's afraid of Benavidez. Right. That's why that's a problem.
I don't think that for a second. I don't think he's afraid of
anybody.
The
other stupid thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, no, the other stupid thing is David saying, "Oh, I'll take 5." Like Charlo and Plant both got like 10 million, and you're smoking crack if you think David was really going to take 5.
Well, we won't know, man. Y'all never sent him an offer with that, so we'll never know.
Well,
but that's the whole point, motherfucker. Is but that's what she's saying. Is Canelo's paying for everybody? He pays for fucking everybody. That's what y'all don't understand. So yeah, he gets 35 people cry, but everybody's getting paid out of that pot that he brings. What the fuck does David bring? That's what people are talking about. So if David is going to take
David Benavidez, just a reminder, he's fighting in the Tank Davis undercard. Just a reminder.
Yeah, and people get mad. Oh, you're pocket watching. You're talking about the business, but that's how these fights get made. And just going back to what me and Chief were arguing about, Bud and Boots. Like, yeah, nobody's paying for that fight. So it's not like he's wrong or I'm necessarily right. I have my opinion, but I can be objective and sound enough to say, look, the money's not there, so it's just not there. But I think if Crawford's being reasonable, he could have. But the money's not there. Like, I can't make Crawford fight Boots if nobody wants to pay for it.
So
like, who the fuck is going to pay for that
analogy? I like where you're going with that, and I respect where you're going with that. The difference in that analogy is that we know that Canelo can command a certain purse size for most fighters. Benavidez, when he steps up against a larger competition, the investors are going to know it's going to sell to make money back. But against Charlo, I'm pretty sure they still made bankroll even after they paid everybody out, even though the pay-per-view sales may not have been through the roof. Okay, and Bud does not do that. If you wanted me to acknowledge that on the air, you're absolutely right. He doesn't do that. And Canelo does. And there's the big difference there. Boots doesn't bring anything to the table. Benavidez doesn't bring anything to the table. The bigger names between those four not those four, the 2 fights, Bud's the bigger name, Canelo's the bigger name. What it comes down to is who's going to invest into it. And then if all the points that you were making before, you are completely right. No one's going to invest enough into Bud and Boots because neither one of them sell anything on a major level. And you are completely right on. And Bud's not making realistic expectations, thinking he deserves Canelo money. You can think anything you want to about yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with demanding the money you can make while you can make it when you get older. But your point that you win that argument on is he needs to be realistic. If he's demanding $15 million, I can see 10. But if he's demanding 15, he's not going to get 15 unless he's fighting Canelo. He's not going to get against anyone else 140 to 160 pounds. He's not going to get it because there's nothing to help sell that because he damn sure can't do it. And Canelo, however, can sell enough to bring 8 figures to himself and probably 8 figures to his opponent, maybe stopping at 10 even, but that's still 8 figures. And there's a huge difference there.
In the chat, Awak with a super chat, he says David's own promoter said they received an offer. Stop the lies already. So what was the offer?
That's a good question. And for the record, when we were saying something earlier about Benavidez said he'd take the fight for $5 million. He very well may have done that if it was his own decision to make. It's not his own decision to make. Al Heyman's not going to do that. His manager doesn't want that because his manager gets paid off a percentage of what he makes. So if you're going to take 5, you're cutting my bank short now, buddy. Because if you get 10, I know I'm getting a mill.
Well, in the chat, Scalebender says, if you're receiving a guarantee, what do you care? What do you care what the opponent brings to the table? That's the promoter's loss. So if Canelo's getting a guarantee, then he should just be happy with the guarantee. But what was the guarantee? I mean, obviously he wasn't happy with it, right? Or I don't understand. Why would you enter negotiations with somebody that you don't want to fight? Are you telling me you're going to go through all that trouble just to like show the world that, oh, I tried to make the fight and it didn't happen? And then you come out of that negotiation and you don't even come out like as, I mean, there's still doubts about what happened, right? It's not as if everybody believes Canelo did want the fight because he entered negotiations. So I don't know. That's a very complex plan to like enter negotiations when you don't want to fight the guy.
Yeah, this is nothing new. I mean, these guys, Tank and Haney, they've been talking about these purse splits and everything. So if people think it's just a Canelo thing, then you're smoking crack. That's what Shakur and Haney were arguing about. So this is nothing new, man. I think Canelo's really just making David jump through hoops. I think he's gonna go up to 175 and then make him literally kill himself to get back down to 168 for the fight.
That's a good theory.
Well, yeah. Did you guys get the feeling that Canelo looked pissed off when he was asked about Benavidez and when when Canelo says like I can make this money, I can make the same amount with somebody else, I can do. What he was saying basically was, well, what he was doing is basically throwing insults at Benavidez, like showing him like, listen, I don't fucking need you. You can't ask for this and that because you don't deserve this and that. I think that's what it was. I think he was just
to me. He was taking jabs, and he was irritated by people asking him. I mean, he's going to fight Munguia, and he said, "This is a fight between two Mexicans. This is what people want: two Mexicans fighting." So I think to me, it's just like verbal shots at Canelo Alvarez. I think he knows completely what he's doing. He's making this guy jump through hoops, and he wants to make him go up to 175 because he is fighting a Eddie Reynoso fighter. That's what they said. This guy Gabozdik is trained by Eddie Reynoso, so they're gonna be. I mean, he's gonna be in the corner of the guy fighting him. And look, man, David is only relevant because of Canelo. Like, who the fuck would this guy be without Canelo Alvarez? Would you care about David Benavidez if Canelo Alvarez was not attacked?
He's about to be a co-main. He's about to be a co-main to Gervonta Davis, so they don't believe.
That's what
and
I
I would
said
say,
exactly.
Well,
you have to listen. You have to look at the way the way these two guys position themselves. Munguia, they've been running their mouths. They've been talking shit, and Munguia positioned himself, fought a common opponent, made it look. It did it in better fashion than Canelo. And then whoop, he's quiet and respectful. Benavidez, Canelo's now starting to talk shit about him in public in these interviews, bro.
You're cutting in and out, never source. You're cutting in and out, man. But I get the point, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Benavidez decided to fight Andre. I don't know if that gave him any more credit or stock. Like why would you fight Andre? And Munguia, yeah, he fought Ryder.
I think the fighting of Boo Boo was a smart move because he finally shut him up and got him out of the way. And this is a fighter that many people, even though most of these guys are Fairweather fans and there's a lot of adjectives you can put on them. They're casuals. They don't know boxing, but they say an undefeated 2-division champion calling people out. Nobody wanted to fight him. So, this guy is a boogeyman. Okay, well, I just took on a boogeyman. I knocked him out. So I don't think it hurt anything any. I want to ask another question though. In regards to, we said who would David be without Canelo? In this current realm, you're right. Let's say that Canelo wasn't at 168 right now, an undisputed champion. If he's fighting at 168, where would he be then? Canelo's got all the belts. If Canelo's not there,
if Canelo wasn't,
I'm asking you guys what you think of where you think he would be. Because remember, Al's still his overseer, and I don't have a better word because Al claims he's not a promoter. Okay, but Al's still the one calling all the shots. So do you think they would have invested the money for him to be undisputed? Do you think they would have? You know what I'm saying?
Good question. Well, I mean, let's look at why didn't he fight Caleb Plant all these? Why did Canelo have to fight Caleb Plant? You know what I mean? Like, wow, Caleb Plant and David Benavidez were fighting in the same division for I don't know how many years, and they never fought, obviously, until after Canelo. So I don't know if what the fuck Al Heyman would have planned for David Benavidez. To be honest, maybe he would have become undisputed. Maybe not.
I think Al-wise, I think he had, but then you have to add in the fact, would Al put the money in to make that happen?
Well, let's say he would have.
Okay. Well,
you're saying he would have become undisputed, right?
Well, I mean, I don't see anybody at 168 aside from Canelo that would have beaten him. So, I mean, maybe Ramirez, because Ramirez was still there for a little bit. But aside from that, I don't. And Morrell still hasn't really made the level to where the jump to the upper level to where he's, setting the world on fire at 168. So you had Caleb Plant, you had, Saunders, who you're right, he never fought. And then there's the argument also he and Plant are under the same promotional company or management company, whatever PBC is supposed to be. And they never fought, and they were in the same division the whole time and under the same umbrella. So I guess my question's answered itself for the fact that he'd probably still be where he's at because PBC wouldn't invest any money into him. Even if he had the talent to do it, they wouldn't put the money into it.
Yeah, but you would think that at some point things would have happened for him, right?
Yeah, that's what we'd be seeing, a Caleb Plant trilogy. That's what we've seen, or maybe a Jamal Charlo, Caleb Plant roundtable. Yeah. That's relevant because of Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, fair enough. You definitely. I don't know if you beat me on every debate. You completely got me on that one, Frank.
But that's fine, man. It's all good. But that's the point, man. I mean, look, I like Benavidez. I think he's a good fighter. I'm not bashing the guy. It's just you got to be realistic in thinking about these things and what makes the most sense. It never made sense for them to fight right away when Canelo went to PBC. What makes the most sense is they're marinating the fight. That's to me what it made sense. That's my only argument is it makes sense to marinate this. I know people hate that word, marinate, but
I'm a cook. I love it.
Go ahead. But how does Benavidez marinate the fight? He has to be part of the marination, I guess, right? So he has to keep talking about Canelo, right?
Oh yeah, he's playing the heel. He's playing the heel, and he
still has to do something. He still has to do something in the ring, and so I guess if he moves up and he has a credible win over a ranked light heavyweight, because let's face it, Benavidez is people. I'm not going to speak for David himself. Benavidez's people doesn't want to have any part of Bivol and Beterbiev, because even if he wins that fight, what he's going to have to go through to get there to beat either and or both of them. Because right now, if I'm under the right news, they're supposedly those two are going to have a unification fight in the near future, and there will be an undisputed champion at 175. I don't think they want him to mess with the winner of that because it's a losable fight. He's talented, but that's a very losable fight. And even if he can win, one, he has to look good to try and get a Canelo payday. If he doesn't look good at all, Canelo's going to be like, I don't need to fight you. Look how bad you looked, beating two guys that, blah, 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 whatever Canelo's going to say. So he has to be impressive, but he can't be impressive.
Exactly, Chief. And this is maybe why they didn't want to do anything with Benavidez, because they knew that they had something that eventually the fans were going to demand. Eventually the fans were going to demand a Benavidez fight for Canelo. Yeah. So why risk Benavidez against some tough fighters or even fighters at light heavyweight why risk his undefeated record? No, let's keep him protected, So now he's going to fight Vozick, and he wants to make people believe that he's trying to fight the winner of Bivol, I guess. But that's not even true. It's a facade.
I find it hard to believe that's what he's really going to push for. I really find one there again. What benefit financially does that have for anyone? Anyone, period. Unless the Saudi Arabian people are going to pay for that to make it a big enough payday for him to fight the winner of that fight, because that's the only way that the fight between Bivol and Beterbiev was really going to get made, because nobody over here was going to make that enough money for those guys to make more than probably $5 million a piece. So to get like 8 figures for each guy, they had to take it all the way over Saudi Arabia. So the winner, all right, let's pretend for a second it's Bivol. Bivol doesn't put people in seats to say, wow, will you look at that technique? Man, he is so awesome. I can watch the way he just moves so silky smooth all day long. Nobody does that. It's not the fact that it's not true, but nobody does that. So the one that's going to sell between the two of those is if Beterbiev knocks out Bivol, and then you got something. People are going to be like, oh, well, now we got 2 big guys that can knock people out. I want to see that. But again, Beterbiev doesn't sell over in America very much. And even though he fights out of Canada, he doesn't sell on this side of the ocean very much. You're going to have to go over to Saudi Arabia for that, to make that kind of money. And then, but like you said, Al doesn't want to risk that, because that's a very losable fight. And if they lose, it's not going to be for Canelo money.
Exactly. Yeah, and that Canelo money is nothing to just, ignore. It's what you want. No, you're lucky to be fighting Canelo.
Life-changing money. It's life-changing money. What you said earlier, Bucho, you said they're making David wait and Canelo wait, because that's what they did with Caleb Plant, is they made Canelo wait. I guess they told him no the first time, and then he had to come back a year or so later to fight Caleb Plant for $10 million. So they kind of strong-armed Canelo at that point. So don't act like David. He's this. What do you call that? This orphan that nobody wants to house. Trust me, man. He said he's making good money. I don't think he's hurting. So there's no tear shed for David. And he has to keep fighting. It's been how many months? If he fights in June, it'll be 7 months since he fought. I mean, the guy's not very active as it is. It's not like he's cleaning out the division himself. Nobody can come on here and tell me he's cleaning out 168, fighting Morrell and Billy.
They already cleaned out. Because there's only one guy sitting on top. Those guys have emerged since then. You're right. There's guys that have emerged since then. But when it was like an open division, Canelo cleaned it out. Now he sits alone on top. Now, who is going to be the person to try and make because this has to be an event. It can't just be a fight. It has to be an event. Who's going to be the person that makes the event to try and make this happen? Never Sober was hitting the nail on the head. Munguia did something. He made a statement, but he's not brash. He doesn't insult Canelo. He doesn't push the buttons to try and, because Canelo can easily say, oh, you want to insult me? Well, here, I get the last laugh. I'm not going to fight you now. Who's laughing now? I'm still going to get $32 million fighting this other guy. And so Munguia, before he got hurt, maneuvered himself, and let's face it, that's what Golden Boy was doing for a long time. They wanted this fight eventually. Canelo left him, but that's what they wanted. They wanted to build up Munguia enough to be a Canelo opponent. They wanted to cash in with the guy. That's why they've been protecting him so long. That's why he hasn't got any of the real title shots along the way. They're waiting to cash in with Canelo. They were about to until he got injured.
It makes sense. I mean, Canelo's a payday. They're going to do anything for their boxers and everything possible so they get that fight, and so that and also to maintain that fight as keep it lucrative.
Yeah.
So this is what they've been. Yeah, this is what they did with Plant. This is what they did with Benavidez. That's why they never fought each other, because it was 2 potential Canelo opponents. You don't want to destroy one. Right? You don't want to exactly. So this is what the PBC has been doing. They knew Canelo was going to come knocking on their fucking door at some point.
Yeah, once Canelo ran through
nobody else.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, just agreeing with that point. Who else besides David is there? So, yeah, he was going to... That's the other thing. He went to the PBC where David Benavidez is at. So it's not like he's running from the guy. He could have stayed with the zone and fought Munguia, Berlanga. So to me, it always said he probably was going to fight this David guy. They're just building it. They're just marinating it.
Along the way, the PBC waited for when it came time for that division area for Canelo to go through all of Eddie Hearn's fighters. And so, like you said, you think it's because of the DAZN factor, because it's actually Golden Boy when it comes to that one. But there's still the DAZN factor of being under the same umbrella for Munguia and maybe some other guys. I don't really follow DAZN very often because I don't have it. But so I don't know who else all under that umbrella. But they knew that once he ran through enough of those guys, there's nobody left. Canelo's going to have to go shopping. And then so hey, we got the Charlo brothers and we have Benavidez and we have whoever else they were. And at the time they had signed Andrade, but I think everyone's tired of Andrade now that he's been exposed. But they had enough opponents for him to say, okay, we'll sign you to a 3-fight deal and we have options for you. And so he's like, great, I'm going to get a guarantee of $32 million and then possibly more depending on the opponent. And that's the way that was going. The problem was the fact that I don't know how right Rick Glaser was in all of it, but things started to fall apart after the first fight because these guarantees that Canelo wanted, Al didn't have the money for. And on top of that, it was supposed to be Maul first. And of course he's been off forever. And so that fight fell through. A lot of people wanted to see it just because they wanted to see the people that believe him all thought he was going to beat Canelo up, and the people that wanted to see Maul shut down and shut up wanted to see that fight. It fell apart, and suddenly this roster of 3 easy fights to make, it didn't happen. They didn't really have everybody to offer him anymore, so they brought up a junior middleweight, and then it was like, crap, who do we have left? Well, Maul just struggled against a junior welterweight with one leg who'd been off for a year and a half, so that's out. What do we have left? Well, we got David. And Canelo's like, well, first of all, where's the money? Number one, if I'm going to do that. And then if it is going to be David, I want it. I would rather it in September because in May, I want to fight somebody else. Well, I mean, he gets to drive his own car a little bit in this situation because he gets to call some of his own shots. So if he doesn't want to fight David now, he wants to fight him in September, so be it. The problem is who you're going to offer him in between. And that's where this whole thing kind of went sideways, was because they had no opponent to offer him in between. If in fact he was going to fight David in September, which nobody knows the answer to that, or whether he was or was not. But there are those who believe that was going to be the last fight of the 3-fight deal. No proof, it's just a hunch, right? Who's the middle guy of the 3 fights? And when it wasn't Maul anymore, then who did they have?
They didn't have anybody that could bring that they could sell. I like the Munguia fight. I mean, everybody's talking about David, but I think Munguia has a chance. I'm not saying he's going to beat him, but I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm actually excited and looking forward to this fight. And nobody's talking about it.
Was that an April Fool's joke, or is it really off? I thought I read somewhere that Munguia
was April Fool's. That was literally April Fool's.
I don't remember what day I read it, so that's why I don't. I was multiple different chat rooms I'm in. It was posted everywhere, and people are starting to say, "Yeah, okay, I guess this really is legit." So this fight's still on. Thank you. I feel like
it's still on. It's still on, and it's a month away. Yeah, next month he'll be fighting.
By saying that, I agree with you because I think it's going to be entertaining. Because Munguia, because he's so hittable, it can't help but be exciting. And because he'll punch with you to punch back, he'll take these punches to land his own, and he's powerful. It doesn't matter if he's fighting scrubs. He's still knocking a lot of them out, not all of them. And he's not looking overly impressive every time out, but he's gotten a little bit better since 154. He's big, he's powerful, he's strong. And because he's easy to hit, that leaves openings for him to punch back at you. So I think it'll be entertaining. I just think that was easier to win.
Yeah, Chief, I think that he's not so easy to hit. It's just he's just willing to be hit. He's willing to be hit to give you.
Someone remake the song from the
and also, you gotta think that
like this video about the game. I mean, kind of go through.
Wait, hold on, because we can hear. Okay, go ahead.
And also, you gotta understand, guys, that Munguia got the momentum behind him. He just got the greatest opportunity of his life, and he's only 26 years old. That's only 5 years, but those 5 years in boxing numbers, they really matter. That's the primary career. I believe from 24 to 27. So he's coming in with a desire to dethrone the older lion. I'll just leave it at that.
I just don't think it's a skill set to do it, but I take your correction, what you made of me, of not the fact that he's easy to hit, but he's willing to be hit. That, you know, the willingness to go ahead and take the shot versus being an easy target is not.
But in other words, Chief, that could be the same thing, though, right? That's basically the same thing. Whether you're willing or like easy to hit, you're still gonna get hit or you're hittable. So at the end of the day, when your opponent could take advantage of that, you're gonna. So it's kind of, I guess.
All right, guys. I gotta go. It's almost 2 hours and 38 minutes. Tomorrow there's gonna be an Open Lines Friday show, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, thank you for joining us. All right, guys.
Thank you, and thank you to my opponents. Late.
Later, guys.
See you guys in the next one.
Body's ready, my heart's on